Chapter 856. Humph. True Lord Lan Yu snorted coldly, and a long sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Swish! Swish! Under the sword light, a large number of vines were instantly severed. Just a so-so.
True Lord Lan Yu said coldly.
Boom! The severed vines fell into the sea of vines. However, the moment they fell into the sea of vines, they melted in the blink of an eye and merged into the sea of vines. The severed vines quickly grew back as though they were never severed at all.
Ah!
The vine demon charged up furiously, swinging countless dragon-like vines at True Lord Lan Yu. Tens of thousands of vines arrived together, howling ferociously.
Boom!
A huge impact clashed with True Lord Lan Yu's long sword. The vine demon had the ability to regenerate. Even though True Lord Lan Yu severed countless vines, they recovered in an instant. The sea of vines soared into the sky. Carrying endless anger, it covered the sky and surged towards the sky. After True Lord Lan Yu slashed for a while, a large number of disciples in the sky were attacked by the sea of vines again. The huge vines were strong and numerous. Although the 5 Middle Void Realm cultivators could protect themselves, they were not strong enough to attack. They kept fighting with the sea of vines. The vine demon wrapped around the cultivators and used them as weapons to fight with the Middle Void Realm cultivators. As long as the Middle Void Realm cultivators attacked, they would definitely kill their own disciples. Ah! Master, don't kill me. The Middle Void Realm experts were flustered. The vines were too ferocious. The endless vines were like an army of thousands of men and horses, constantly attacking the cultivators. True Lord Lan Yu's face sank. Although the long sword in his hand was incomparably sharp, the vine demon could regenerate. One by one, the disciples were entangled. True Lord Lan Yu's face immediately turned extremely unsightly. At this time, the vine demon had already flown off the ground. All the huge vines flew into the sky and pounced at True Lord Lan Yu. Yan Chuan stood on the ground, looking coldly at the sky. Quick, don't worry about me. I'll entangle this demon. You capture Yan Chuan. Capture Yan Chuan. True Lord Lan Yu shouted. Yes. Countless cultivators immediately fled and pounced at Yan Chuan. True Lord Lan Yu cooperated with them to lure the vine demon higher and higher, luring the vine demon far away. Nearly 3,000 practitioners fled from all directions and charged straight at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan stood with his hands behind his back. He wasn't afraid in the slightest, even when facing 5 Middle Void stage martial artists. The Jade Emperor's sword on his back trembled slightly and was about to fly out. Swish! Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Yan Chuan. Your Majesty, I'm late to protect you, Jin Dayu said worriedly. Done. Yan Chuan was slightly delighted. Yes. It's beginning to take shape. Jin Dayu said excitedly. In that case, there is no need for us to start a massacre. Let us see your Heaven Realm gate. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Yes. After experiencing the Vine Yao, the 3,000 Xiuzhe in the sky had become much more careful. When Jin Dayu suddenly appeared, everyone paused. I know him. Last time, we fought in the Great Revelation Holy Land. He is only at the Middle Void stage. If we attack together, he will not be a match for us. Immediately, someone shouted. All right. Everyone responded and dared not delay any further. They quickly charged towards Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu. Boom! Jin Dayu opened his mouth and spat out a 90-zhong tall giant bell. The giant bell was still very rough. Some runes could be vaguely seen on it. Clearly, it was just as Jin Dayu said. It was just beginning to take shape. However, even though it was just beginning to take shape, it still radiated golden light like a golden sun. It was so dazzling that many people found it hard to open their eyes. The moment the giant bell appeared, a dense, ferocious aura was emitted. The surrounding soil was immediately overturned. At the celestial phenomenon pool, Sun Mountain, he refined the Sun Mountain into the shape of a bell. Mohina Dojin raised his brows and said, Bell? The others also looked curiously. Jin Dayu held the giant bell in his hand and looked at the 3,000 Xiuzha rushing over from afar. He revealed a cold smile. Jin Dayu extended his hand and smacked the giant bell fiercely.
Kill.
The 3,000 Xiuzha rushed down. Primal chaos ring.
Dang.
The bell rang. From the giant bell, a yellow sound wave rippled towards the 3,000 Xiuzha.
Buzz. Bam. 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 Bam.
Nearly 100 cultivators immediately bled all over, their flesh turning into a bloody mess.
Pooh. Pooh.
The better ones spat out blood and fainted on the spot. Most of them were holding their bloody ears with their hands, curling up in pain as they fell to the ground, rolling around and shouting, "My ears!"
Ah.
Even the 5 middle void stage experts stopped moving at this moment. The chi and blood in their bodies surged, and their divine souls trembled violently. They tried to force their divine souls to stay still, but the trembling was too strong. The impact caused their divine souls to collapse instantly. For a moment, the 5 middle void stage experts were all muddle-headed and swaying. Chapter 857. Dazhao Holy Land, beside the astronomical phenomenon pond. Other than Mo Yushi, almost everyone's jaws dropped. Especially Mohina Dojin. This is impossible. What kind of magic treasure is this? Mohina Dojin exclaimed. As soon as the golden bell rang, a yellow ripple spread out. The 3,000 cultivators were all severely injured. Some of them were unconscious, some of them were crying bitterly. The 5 middle void realm experts were even more muddle-headed. They had lost their ability to resist for a while. Bell chime? Just a bell chime? Everyone had seen all kinds of magic treasures and giant bells, but they had never seen such a strange bell. Especially Mohina Dojin. That giant golden bell was originally his, although it was only a sun mountain at that time. However, it was still his. Ever since Jingming gave it to him, Mohina Dojin had thought of many ways to refine it, but he did not know what kind of magic treasure to refine. Because all kinds of magic treasures could not achieve the same effect. Mohina Dojin thought that this kind of material could not be used to refine magic treasures. However, the scene in front of him had already explained everything. It was not that it could not be refined, but that the material was too high grade. Ordinary magic treasures could not withstand it. Bell? Mohina Dojin's eyes were filled with greed and regret. I must get it, I must get it. Shangguan Wan frowned slightly and stared at the bell. A trace of doubt flashed in her eyes. In the image, after Jin Dayu's bell rang, the 3,000 cultivators almost lost the ability to fight. The 5 middle void stage experts had a trace of clarity in their muddle-headed state. However, how could Jin Dayu let them?
Boom.
Boom. Jin Dayu attacked and quickly restrained the 5 muddle-headed people. He used a special secret method to suppress their cultivation and kicked each of them to a pile of people. Heaven Realm Gate? Very good. I look forward to becoming stronger in your hands. Yen Chuan sighed. From Yen Chuan's eyes, Jin Dayu did not see a trace of greed, only admiration. Jin Dayu immediately felt relieved. Turning their heads, the two looked at the sky. Rumble. A sea of vines that blotted out the sky surrounded Downlord Abyssal Azure Flame. The sea of vines was like a giant ball, wrapping around true Monarch Lan Yu. One could only tell from the intense twisting of the giant ball that the battle inside was extremely intense. Boom. Boom.
Boom.
About an hour later. Not good. True Monarch Lan Yu's exclamation came from inside.
Boom.
The rattan ball suddenly stopped. Slowly, a figure that was tightly bound by vines emerged from the sea of vines, revealing a head. Perfected Lord Lan Yu. True Lord Lan Yu was trapped. His face twitched in disbelief. Great Zhao Holy Lands, astronomical phenomenon pond's entrance. True Lord Lan Yu, he's at the upper void realm. Even if he just reached the upper void realm, even if he's at the first level of the upper void realm, he's still at the upper void realm. Dao Lord Yu said in surprise. That demon is so powerful? Completely under Yen Chuan's command? Mohina Dojin's expression changed. However, Mo Yushi laughed. Miss Shangguan, I think you've already gotten what you want. There's no need to investigate anymore, right? Shangguan Wan frowned deeply and stared fixedly at Yan Chuan in the image. No need to investigate anymore? Shangguan Wan realized that up until now, Yan Chuan did not seem to have made a move yet.
Not yet.
Everyone that true monarch Lan Yu brought was completely wiped out? This Yan Chuan looked more and more mysterious. In the image, Yan Chuan looked at true monarch Lan Yu, who was entangled by countless giant vines, and said with a cold smile, True monarch Lan Yu, do you still want to search? Chapter 858. The face of Supreme Lan Yu, who was entangled by the giant vines, was extremely ugly. Lan Yu merit, Dharma world. Supreme Lan Yu roared stubbornly.
Buzz.
Descending from the sky, a golden beam of light suddenly poured into the sea of vines and rushed into Supreme Lan Yu's body. Supreme Lan Yu instantly burst into golden light.
Boom.
Supreme Lan Yu struggled fiercely, and a large number of giant vines instantly collapsed. Mobilize the merits of Lan Yu sect. Yan Chuan's face changed. Roar. Under Supreme Lan Yu's roar, he mobilized the power of merit. In an instant, his left fist swung out, and a large number of giant vines exploded. The sea of vines was unable to trap Supreme Lan Yu for a while. Emperor, I'm coming, Jin Dayu said. As he spoke, the giant bell floated up again. His hand slammed again. Heaven realm gate open. All laws perish. Dang. Another bell rang, but this time, it was a light purple sound wave ripple.
Buzz.
The light purple sound wave ripple rushed to the sky and instantly rushed to Supreme Lan Yu.
Boom.
The boundless merit that enveloped Supreme Lan Yu collapsed in an instant and dispersed with a loud rumble. The power of merit that was mobilized dissipated in an instant. No, impossible. Supreme Lan Yu roared in shock. Hulilu. The giant vine grew out again, and once again wrapped Supreme Lan Yu tightly. More thorough than before, more powerful than before.
Ah.
The vine demon appeared next to him, revealing an angry expression.
Ah.
Supreme Lan Yu was tortured by the vine demon and cried out in pain. At this moment, Supreme Lan Yu no longer had the strength to attack. His biggest reliance was gone. What was there to fight now? Supreme Lan Yu was completely annihilated. And in the great Zhao Holy Land, at the mouth of the celestial phenomenon pond, everyone looked at the image in surprise.
How could this be?
Supreme Lan Yu is mobilizing merit. Although it's outside the Lan Yu sect, it's not far away. That bell is so domineering. What a domineering bell. Everyone was discussing. Mohina Dojin was shouting in his heart. This should have been his. It should have been his. Shangguan Wan said in a low voice, the power of this bell is worthy of being an immortal item. Immortal item? Everyone looked at Shangguan Wan. Who would have thought that a mere middle void stage cultivator would be able to refine immortal artifacts? Although it's the lowest grade, it's still an immortal item. Shangguan Wan frowned. What do we do now? Miss Shangguan, true monarch Lan Yu's army, was completely wiped out. Someone shouted. Yeah, what if Yan Chuan kills true monarch Lan Yu? Mohina Dojin said solemnly. Girl, what do you think? Shangguan Wan frowned as she looked at Mo Yushi. Mo Yushi said with a relaxed expression, what can I do? It was Miss Shangguan's own decision. She told true monarch Lan Yu not to hold back. Either true monarch Lan Yu died, or Yan Chuan died. Don't tell me Miss Shangguan didn't expect this result? Shangguan Wan could hear the resentment in Mo Yushi's voice and smiled. Then, Shangguan Wan looked at Yan Chuan on the screen. Yan Chuan didn't make a move, but he did just now. Because Jin Dayu and the Vine Monster should be part of Yan Chuan's power. Yan Chuan stood there from the beginning to the end, as if he was sitting in the middle of the army tent. Shangguan Wan looked at Yan Chuan with interest. Her plan this time had yielded great results, but it was still not enough. Shangguan Wan stared at Yan Chuan on the screen. Just as Shangguan Wan was thinking, Yan Chuan moved. Yan Chuan suddenly turned his head to look at the sky. Chapter 859. How can this be? Someone suddenly exclaimed. It can't be, right? Mohina Dojin also exclaimed. Mou Shi's eyes widened. Everyone had a look of disbelief. Yan Chuan raised his head and looked at the sky. No, his gaze was fixed on the people of the Dezhou holy ground. It was as if he was looking over from the constellation pond. Yan Chuan's gaze passed through the constellation pond and stared at Sheng Wanwan. As they looked at each other, Sheng Wanwan also revealed a trace of surprise. However, Sheng Wanwan calmed down and stared at Yan Chuan through the constellation pond. Miss Shengguan? And everyone you've all watched for a long time. Yan Chuan said coldly. Jin Deyu stood at the side and looked around as if he was facing a great enemy. There was no enemy. Jin Deyu looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Outside the constellation pond, the experts all revealed a look of surprise. He really looked over? How can this be? How did he see it? Everyone looked at the image in shock. Yan Chuan could see them through the image? Don't worry, Yan Chuan didn't look over. He just sensed it. Sheng Wanwan immediately said. Sensed? Everyone was puzzled. It sensed. Some people are born with a sense for such surveillance. Yan Chuan actually guessed it. Heh, the Holy Lord didn't see wrongly. This person is indeed hiding too much. Sheng Wanwan took a deep breath and said. In the image, Yan Chuan said solemnly, Sheng Wanwan I don't want to be enemies with the Dezhou holy ground. You don't have to do this anymore. If you really want to find out something from me, you can ask Mou Shi. There's no need to do this anymore. I will release true monarch Lan Yu and discipline her well. Sheng Wanwan's eyes narrowed. He guessed it? Yan Chuan guessed Miss Shengguan's plan? Everyone asked in surprise. Miss Shengguan, if there's anything you want to know, you can ask me. Please don't do this kind of thing again. Mou Shi said awkwardly. With a faint smile, Sheng Wanwan waved her sleeve.
Buzz.
Ripples appeared on the surface of the celestial phenomenon pond, and the reflection within instantly disappeared. All right, everyone, please go back, Sheng Wanwan said. Yes. Everyone nodded. Filled with doubt and surprise, they left one after another. Only Sheng Wanwan stood by the pool and walked back and forth, thinking about how to explain it to Jingming. Heavenly Tribulation Mountain Range. Yan Chuan and Jin Deyu stood on the peak of a mountain and watched as perfected Lord Lan Yu led the Lan Yu sect disciples away. Your Majesty, is there really someone monitoring us? Jin Deyu asked in surprise. Well, don't worry, the surveillance has been removed. Yan Chuan smiled. Yes. Continue to refine the Heaven Realm Gate. Next, there will be a long period of peace. Yan Chuan smiled.
Yes.
A year later, the matter of the Heaven Calamity Mountain Range had been sealed by the Lan Yu sect disciples. No one was allowed to spread it. Perfected Lord Lan Yu also went to the Great Zhao Holy Ground again. Yan Chuan and Jin Deyu also obtained another year of peace. At this time, outside a city south of the Lan Yu sect. At this moment, there were 12 black-robed men standing there. Cough, cough, cough. One of them coughed non-stop. Your Majesty, this is already the periphery of the Great Zhao Holy Ground. This should be the territory of the Lan Yu sect. A black-robed man said respectfully. Cough, 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 cough. Your Majesty, are we going just like this? Won't we lose Your Majesty's identity? The coughing man laughed. Snake Emperor, what do you want to say? The leader of the black-robed men said in a deep voice. Hee hee, cough, 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 cough. Your Majesty, since you're here, then let's raise your prestige. Great Zhao Holy Ground? Why don't we use the zombie army to attack the city? Snake Emperor laughed. Chapter 860. A city of Lan Yu sect. Endless screams could be heard from the city.
Ah.
Save me.
Ghost.
Don't bite me. Don't bite me. Not good. Boss is bitten. Boss is going to become a zombie too. Let me out, help. The screams were endless, and the city was in chaos. At each of the 4 gates stood a black-robed man. The gates were tightly shut, and no one could enter or leave. Outside the city, on a small hill, there were also 2 black-robed men. Cough, cough, cough. Your Majesty, 5 cities, 10 million people have become zombies. Shall we advance to Lanyu's sect next? The Snake Emperor coughed. The other black-robed man nodded. Dazhao Holy Ground. Beside the Celestial Phenomenon Pond. The 5 sect leaders, Maori, Yu and Mo Yushi, accompanied by Shengguan Wan, looked at the Celestial Phenomenon Pond together. This is my Lanyu sect? Lanyu Supreme's face changed. In the image, outside a mountain range shrouded in merits, a group of pale-faced cultivators walked forward with their hands hanging by their sides. The corners of these people's mouths were full of blood, and their eyes were empty. However, their faces were twisted and ferocious. Some of them even had their arms broken, but these people did not know pain and did not stop the bleeding. They just walked towards Lanyu's sect while roaring. Roar. Roar. Close to 10 million people were all like zombies. They walked slowly towards Lanyu's sect. 10 disciples flew out from Lanyu's sect. Each of them had an ugly expression as they approached. Stop. Don't you know this is Lanyu's sect? A disciple shouted. No. This is Wu City's city lord? Why are you here? Another disciple was surprised. Roar. The zombie in front suddenly roared and led a group of zombies to pounce on them. What are you doing? The disciples' faces changed. However, they were soon surrounded by zombies. Roar. Don't bite me. Roar. After the zombies dispersed, the 10 disciples' faces were all pale and their eyes were empty. They joined the zombies and headed towards the blue transcendent sect, beside the Celestial Phenomenon Pond. This. Immortal Lanyu exclaimed. Not only Supreme Lanyu. Everyone looked at this scene in surprise. Is this a zombie? I've heard that zombies can use corpse poison to turn humans into new zombies, but it shouldn't be this fast. Mo Yushi exclaimed. They're not zombies, they're zombies. They're highly infectious, but they don't have consciousness. After these practitioners were bitten to death, they were infected by zombie poison. At the same time, they must have been manipulated by someone behind the scenes, Shengguan Wan said in a low voice. Zombies? With zombies like this, aren't they invincible? Mo Yushi didn't understand. It's not invincible. There are many types of zombie poison, and they all have a time limit. The worst can only last for 3 months, and the strongest can last for 3 years. It's a one-time consumable. Shengguan Wan said nonchalantly. In the image, the zombie army was advancing towards Lanyu's sect. A large number of practitioners flew out and killed the zombies with their swords. However, as long as they were bitten, the Lanyu sect disciples would join the zombie army. The zombies kept replenishing, but the Lanyu sect disciples kept decreasing. Miss Shengguan, my Lanyu sect is in danger now. Supreme Lanyu's expression changed. Chapter 861. Lanyu's sect is about to be destroyed. Shengguan Wan nodded. Perfected Lord Lanyu's expression changed. Looking at the scene, she felt extremely bitter. Jing Ying took the Heaven Seal, and Perfected Lord Lanyu boarded the ship. Perfected Lord Lanyu did not care about Lanyu's sect, but seeing it destroyed, she still felt bitter. Lady Shengguan, you said there's a mastermind behind the scenes? Is someone deliberately targeting our Dazhao Holy Land? Mo Yushi's expression changed. Zombie? I remember now. It's King Gai of Southern Divine Continent. He said that he will come to Dazhao Holy Land soon. This zombie must be his doing. Dao Lord Yu Yu's expression darkened. King Gai. Everyone's expression changed. Shengguan Wan frowned. The Holy Lord is in seclusion now. It's not convenient to deal with this. You guys go and give King Gai a warning. Make him behave. Us. Everyone? Mohina Dojin's eyes lit up. That's right. Other than Mo Yushi, everyone else will go. 7 Upper Void Realm cultivators should be enough. Dao Lord Yu Ri and Dao Lord Yu will lead the team. Shengguan Wan said in a low voice. Yes. The 7 of them answered immediately.
Go.
Shengguan said in a low voice. Yes. The 7 of them quickly stepped out of the main hall and flew towards the south. Lady Shengguan, don't I have to go? She's eyes flashed with worry. Shengguan smiled. Girl, I know you're worried about Yan Chuan.
But think about it.
Does that Yan Chuan need you to worry about him?
He's just a zombie.
Oh. She nodded, but there was still some worry between her brows. Shengguan smiled. There's one more thing. You're the Holy Lord's daughter. The Holy Lord is in seclusion. There are some things that need your help. Oh. She asked curiously. 3 days later, come with me to pick up someone. Although this person submitted to the Holy Lord still treats him with respect. It's clear that the Holy Lord values him. As the Holy Lord's daughter, you have to come with me. Shengguan smiled. Who? She asked in surprise. Jingying had always thought that she was the biggest in the world. There was someone else that the sacred leader treated with respect. His name is Yuan Tiangang. Shengguan said. Yuan Tiangang? She looked confused. She had never heard of such a person in the world. Lanyu's sect.
Roar.
Roar. Countless zombies pounced on the Lanyu sect, and the entire Lanyu sect was enveloped by a massive sword chi. The sword chi rumbled as it swept out like a storm. The upper echelons of the Lanyu sect kept killing one zombie after another. The upper echelons of the Lanyu sect were powerful, but there were also a large number of experts among the zombies. They continued to advance with numbers. Finally, after 3 days, the last cultivator of the Lanyu sect fell to the zombies.
Boom.
The blue transcendent sect's ocean of merit shattered. The Lanyu sect was destroyed. Cough, cough, cough. Your Majesty, the great Zhao Holy Land should have received the news of the blue tranquil sect's annihilation. Snake Emperor said to King Gai with a smile. King Gai nodded. Your Majesty, this place is rich in heaven and earth Yuan Qi. It should be a treasure land. Your Majesty, please rest here for now. The battle with Jingying cannot be held in the great Zhao Holy Land. I think it's best to hold it here. Cough, cough, cough. Snake Emperor smiled. All right, I will wait here for Jingying to come. King Gai nodded. Lanyu sect, zombie territory. King Gai stayed temporarily. A group of black-robed people walked to Snake Emperor. Snake Emperor? What's the next step? A black-robed figure asked. Chapter 862. Let the zombies spread out and turn all the cultivators in the vicinity into zombies. Since we've already done it, let's make it bigger to prevent Jing Ting from bringing a large number of cultivators to counterattack. Yes. By the way, Snake Emperor, there seems to be a Heaven Calamity Mountain range near the Lanyu sect. That's a good place to raise zombies. Also, your cough is also, the black-robed man said respectfully.
Oh.
The Snake Emperor's eyes lit up. Heaven Calamity Mountain Range. Although Yan Chuan was living here, he was not idle. In a large hall, Yan Chuan had a large number of files in front of him. Geographical distribution of the Lanyu sect, distribution of the Great Zhao Holy Land, history of the founding of the great sects in the East Divine Continent. While Yan Chuan was cultivating, he was constantly reading this information. Although this information didn't seem to be of much use, it was what Yan Chuan needed the most. Because only by understanding these could he have a clearer understanding of the world situation. Hades Emperor. Qinglong's voice came from outside the hall. Come in. Yan Chuan put down the book in his hand and called out. Soon, Qinglong stepped into the hall. His face revealed a look of panic. What's wrong? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Hades Emperor, something big has happened. A few days ago, I went out to search for some geographical maps for Hades Emperor, but I encountered some unbelievable things along the way. The Lanyu sect near us was completely destroyed. Qinglong said worriedly. Oh, the Lanyu sect was destroyed? What's going on? Yan Chuan suddenly became serious. The Lanyu sect was a vassal sect of the Great Zhao Holy Land. Who dared to find trouble with them? And it was even destroyed? Was he trying to go against Jingming? A group of walking corpses, it's like this. Qinglong recalled the scene he saw during this period. Zombies? Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. Zombies? Qinglong asked curiously. Yan Chuan frowned as he paced back and forth in the hall. Looks like the king of Gaiyu is here, has? Yan Chuan's expression changed. King of Gaian? The emperor of the southern divine continent's great tragedy heavenly dynasty? What is he doing here? Qinglong was puzzled. Why are you here? Of course. I'm looking for Jingming. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Find the sacred master? King of Gaian? It was a pity that I did not get to see your technique that day. Today, I shall witness it for myself. King Guai from the celestial realm? Unfortunately, you made the wrong move. The people in this world might not necessarily be inferior to the people in the immortal world. There are many people that even I can't see through, Yan Chuan muttered to himself as his eyes narrowed. Hell Emperor? Why is King Gaiyu looking for Holy Lord? Qinglong was still puzzled. What are you doing? He's here to compete with Jingming for the title of most powerful person in the world. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Compete for the title of most powerful person in the world? Qinglong was stunned. Qinglong, when are you going back? Yan Chuan looked at Qinglong. Go back? Dao Lord Yu, she instructed me to stay here. With Bai Long and Rosefinch protecting Dao Lord, it should be fine. I'll stay here and help Hell Emperor. I'm more familiar with the surroundings. If there's anything, Hell Emperor doesn't have to do it himself. I can handle it. Qinglong said.
All right.
Yan Chuan nodded. Just as the two were talking, a group of roars came from the forest in the distance. Roar. Roar. A group of angry roars came. Qinglong's expression changed. This is? Zombies? Yes, I remember. It's the sound of zombies. The zombies are here. Zombies? Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. Chapter 863. Heaven's Calamity Mountain Range. Roar. Roar. Countless zombies rushed into the Heaven's Calamity Mountain Range. For a moment, the cultivators hiding in the Heaven's Calamity Mountain Range were being wiped out. There was a lot of poisonous miasma here, but it was nothing to the zombies who were already dead. These zombies didn't even feel anything because they were already dead. The zombies rushed into the Heaven's Calamity Mountain Range and headed towards Yan Chuan. They came from the south and then the north, closing in on Yan Chuan. Hades, what do we do now? Let's go. Qinglong said anxiously. Yan Chuan didn't care and stepped out of the hall. They're just zombies. Yan Chuan smiled. Not far away, the first zombie to rush into the forest saw Yan Chuan. It roared and rushed towards Yan Chuan. Screech. The god's sword suddenly flew out from Yan Chuan's back. It rushed towards the zombie. Whoosh. The god's sword shone brightly and shone on the first zombie. Roar. Roar. The zombie roared in pain. Then, a large amount of black gas gushed out of its 7 orifices. The black gas rose into the sky and dissipated in the blink of an eye. The zombie fell to the ground with a plop. A green soul slowly emerged from the zombie's body. The green soul respectfully bowed to Yan Chuan in an extremely sincere manner before slowly disappearing. Was it expiated? Qinglong was surprised. The zombie was expiated by the white light? It's similar to expiation. To be more precise, it was purified. Yan Chuan smiled. Purified. The god's sword removed the filth in the zombie's body and allowed the souls sealed in the zombie's body to safely enter the netherworld. It will be easier for them to reincarnate in the future. Yan Chuan smiled. Oh, souls are sealed in zombies. These souls are suffering endless torment. Hades Emperor's actions are immeasurably virtuous. Azure Dragon sighed. Yan Chuan smiled faintly and didn't say much. Instead, he waved his hand and stabbed the Emperor's sword into the ground.
Boom.
Countless white sword chi suddenly appeared in all directions and swam around the heavenly tribulation mountain range. Countless traces of sword chi gave off boundless white light, and as the white light covered the area, the zombies were purified. They turned into souls and respectfully bowed towards Yan Chuan before entering the underworld. Sovereign sword formation? What a great benevolent grand array! Qing Long sighed emotionally. Mercy? Yan Chuan smiled and did not explain. The Heaven's Calamity Mountain Range had the God's Sword formation, so the zombies couldn't do anything. At the same time, Yan Chuan also warned the person controlling the zombies that this was his territory, and no zombies were allowed to come close. Yan Chuan returned to the main hall alone. After closing the main hall, Yan Chuan walked out with his legs crossed. Hoo hoo hoo. Around Yan Chuan, streams of green energy surged madly into Yan Chuan's body. The God's Sword formation? It really didn't disappoint me, Yan Chuan said with satisfaction. The benevolent grand array? The God's Sword formation isn't benevolent at all. The God's Sword formation is even more ferocious than the Jade Emperor's sword formation. The Jade Emperor's sword formation can at most draw blood and kill people. Although the God's Sword formation can purify the impurities and free the souls, it can also take away a trace of the soul's vitality. Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. Vitality. Yan Chuan knew in his heart how precious vitality was. It was a part of the birth chart. Vitality corresponded to death. Every living being had life and death. If there was more life than death, then that was a living being. On the other hand, those who had more death were dead spirits. The distinction between living beings and dead spirits was based on vitality and death. Chapter 864. Regardless of whether it was living or undead, they all had vitality and death. It was just that the ratio was different. For example, a person's birth chart power was 100, vitality was 60, and death was 40. An ordinary death would only transform vitality into death, turning it into 40 vitality and 60 death. A living being would transform into an undead. However, the God's Sword's purification did not transform vitality and death, but deprive it of vitality. For example, a zombie's vitality was 45% and death was 55%. After purification, it would become 40% vitality and 55% death. Although they were freed and purified, they only had 95 birth chart power left, which was 5% less than their original soul. Of course, everyone's birth chart power was different. It could not be measured by numbers. Perhaps some people would still have more birth chart power than ordinary people even after a portion of their birth chart power was taken away. However, nobody here knew how terrifying the God's Sword was. Most of the vitality was absorbed by the God's Sword to strengthen its sword soul. 1% of it was taken away by Yan Chuan. This was the purest vitality. At the same time, Yan Chuan held a large number of spirit stones in his hand. The primal energy in the spirit stones surged into Yan Chuan's body. Many people paid attention to cultivation techniques. However, the ultimate goal of any cultivation technique was to strengthen one's birth chart. However, those with low cultivation bases would not be able to sense the birth chart at all. The body was equivalent to a container. Once the container was full, it would be useless no matter how much primal energy one absorbed. This was the so-called bottleneck. The increase in one's cultivation base was actually an increase in one's birth chart. As one's birth chart increased, the body would become bigger. This would allow one to absorb more primal energy. In other words, the birth chart controlled everything. Only when one's birth chart was strong would one's cultivation base increase. Only then would one be able to absorb more energy. Although Yan Chuan had the soul and will of his previous life, his birth chart belonged to this life. Therefore, he had to cultivate from the beginning in this life. He had to increase his cultivation base and expand his birth chart from the beginning. Although the Jade Emperor's sword could increase one's cultivation base by absorbing energy from killing people, that was under the premise of overdrawing the power of one's birth chart. Every time the Jade Emperor's sword increased his cultivation base, Yan Chuan had to constantly cultivate to stabilize the power of his birth chart. He only dared to use it a second time after his birth chart was strengthened. This was because once one's birth chart was destroyed, one's life was over. However, it was different now. The god's sword was able to take away one's vitality and birth charts. The god's sword was too tyrannical. It went against the harmony of the heavens. He was afraid that the wrath of the heavens would descend upon the god's sword, causing the god's sword that he refined with great difficulty to be destroyed by the wrath of the heavens. That's why Yan Chuan didn't dare to use it often. Only when the zombies attacked did Yan Chuan officially use it. Life force surged into his body, and a large amount of heaven and earth yuan qi entered his body. Yan Chuan's cultivation was increasing bit by bit. At the peak of a mountain outside the heavenly tribulation mountain range. Cough, cough, cough. The snake emperor covered his mouth with a handkerchief. He stood on top of a mountain and looked coldly at the heaven tribulation mountain range in the distance. Endless sword qi soared into the sky, and a white light shone. All the zombies that entered were purified. Snake Emperor, the heavenly tribulation mountain range has been occupied by someone else? He even set up a formation to purify the zombies? This is a warning to us. A black-robed man beside him said worriedly. Cough, cough. The Snake Emperor threw away the handkerchief that was coughing up blood and took out a new one. He looked coldly at the heavenly tribulation mountain range. Purify? There's a limit to how much a Dharma treasure can purify. Gather more zombies and charge. I want to see how many Dharma treasures the people inside have. The Snake Emperor said coldly. Chapter 865. Yes. What the Snake Emperor did not know was that when the god sword purified and released a large amount of white light, not only did it not cause any damage, but it also absorbed a large amount of vitality. The more it purified, the stronger the god's sword became. Roar! 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 More and more zombies swarmed in from all directions. Under the Snake Emperor's orders, they attacked the Heaven's Calamity Mountain range en masse. On the other side, King Gaio's subordinates were continuously creating zombies. The two sides canceled each other out, and it seemed like the number of zombies in King of Gado did not increase by much. More and more zombies rushed into the mountains, and more of them were purified. Half a month later, still at the peak of the mountain. Cough, 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 cough. The Snake Emperor was so angry that he coughed out blood again. Useless? That purifying power didn't decrease at all? A black-robed figure at the side said in surprise. Snake Emperor, what do we do now? Did he still want to provoke them? The other party has been purifying for half a month and hasn't done anything to us. It's obvious that they're just protecting themselves and don't want to be enemies with us. That's right, Snake Emperor. If the other party can purify so many zombies, his strength must be extraordinary. Right now, His Majesty is conserving his strength and preparing to fight against Jingting. At this critical juncture, it's better not to complicate matters, right? Snake Emperors? Everyone tried to persuade the Snake Emperor.
No.
The Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes, and a cold light shot out from his eyes. The person inside must be investigated thoroughly. How can he allow others to snore under his bed? The Emperor and Jingming could not afford to lose in the battle. What if the practitioners in the Heavenly Calamity Mountain Range jumped out at the crucial moment? After all, this is not my great nightmare, Heavenly Dynasty. The Snake Emperor said coldly. Yes. The black-robed figures nodded. Just as the Snake Emperor was about to lead the black-robed figures into the Heavenly Tribulation Mountain Range, a black figure suddenly flew over from afar. Reporting. The black figure landed in front of the Snake Emperor. What's wrong? The Snake Emperor frowned. Snake Emperor, true Lord Lan Yu of the Blue Transcendent Sect has returned. He's outside the Blue Transcendent Sect now. Black Shadow said solemnly. Cough cough, true Monarch Lan Yu? Just him alone? The Snake Emperor asked with narrowed eyes. Yes. One person? Do you think I'll believe you? There must be other people hiding in the dark. The upper void realm of the Dazhao Holy Land is almost here. Go back and block everyone for me. Don't let anyone disturb His Majesty. The Snake Emperor said in a deep voice. Yes, the black-robed figures replied. Is the Snake Emperor not going back with us? A black-robed figure asked doubtfully. I'll personally explore the Heavenly Tribulation mountain range.
Cough, cough.
Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes and said, Yes. The black-robed figures seemed to be extremely confident in the Snake Emperor. North of the Heavenly Tribulation mountain range.
At the peak of a mountain.
At the peak of the mountain stood Mohina Dojin and Dao Lord Yu, and looked to the south. True Lord Lan Yu, they've probably already gone. Mohina Dojin, why did you ask me to stay behind alone? Dao Lord Yu laughed. Mohina Dojin looked at the southwest gate and said with a slightly solemn expression, Dao Lord Yu, you and I have worked together for thousands of years. That's right.
Why?
Dao Lord Yu smiled. This time, I actually want to ask you to do me a favor. I will forever remember your words. Dao Lord Solar said solemnly.
Oh?
Dao Lord Yu's eyes lit up. You still remember Sun Mountain, right? Mohina Dojin said in a deep voice. Of course I know. Now that it has fallen into the hands of Yen Chuan and Jin Diu, it has turned into a gigantic bell. Dao Lord Yu laughed. That's right. Sun Mountain was bestowed to me by the Holy Master. I must take it back. Yen Chuan is extremely strange. This time, just in case, I want to ask for your help to retrieve my things. Mohina Dojin said in a deep voice. Your things? Dao Lord Yu smiled. All right, you and I have been friends for many years. Since you asked, I will naturally agree. All right, let's go to the Heaven Tribulation mountain range now. Chapter 866. East Divine Continent, in a mountain forest. It was quiet all around. In the center of the forest, there was a huge altar about 10 zhang in size. On the altar, there were many mysterious runes carved on it. Two people stood beside the altar. Shangguan Wan and Mo Shi. Miss Shangguan, we've been here for a few days. Why haven't we seen you on Tiangang? Mo Shi asked curiously. Shangguan Wan looked at the sun in the sky. She calculated the time.
Soon.
He should be here soon. Shangguan Wan smiled. Soon? Miss Shangguan, who is Yuan Tiangang? Why haven't I heard of him? Mo she asked curiously. Oh? Girl, have you heard of all the experts in the world? Shangguan Wan smiled. You said that if my mother values him, he must be one of the strongest people in the world. I've studied all the strongest people in the world, but I've never heard of Yuan Tiangang. Which sect is he from? Mo she didn't understand. How much do you know about the Holy Master? Shangguan Wan smiled. Mo she was surprised. It seemed that she didn't know much about Jingming.
He's here.
Shangguan Wan suddenly smiled. Mo she immediately looked around, but there wasn't anyone in the surroundings. She looked at Shangguan Wan and saw that she was looking at the sky. Mo she looked at the sky curiously. A group of stars suddenly appeared in the sky. This is? Starlight? Am I seeing things? It's daytime. Mo she exclaimed. There were a total of 36 stars in the sky, shining brightly. It was daytime. Starlight illuminates this altar. Only you and I can see it. Shangguan Wan explained. This is the Heavenly Leader Star, the Heavenly Strength Star, the Heavenly Brave Star, the 36 stars of the Heavenly Strength Star? Mo she recognized them. The 36 stars of the Heavenly Strength Star rushed to the altar below. Who? Standing up close, Zhang Xian could clearly see that it was as if a massive pillar of light had ascended from the heavens, and the 36 streaks of starlight had converged into one.
Boom.
There was a loud explosion high up in the sky. It was as if a massive force had torn the void apart.
Buzz.
A white figure suddenly appeared in the torn space. The man was dressed in a white robe, and his hair was combed into a bun. He held a horsetail whisk in his hand. Although he looked like a mortal in his 40s, he looked extremely handsome. The white-robed figure slowly descended from the sky, like a celestial being descending to the mortal world. Immortal? Immortal? No, someone from the immortal realm. Did he come from the immortal realm? Mo she exclaimed. Lass, don't panic. This is Yuan Tiangang. Shangguan said with a smile. High up in the sky, the white-robed figure slowly descended with a carefree smile on his face. Who? Yuan Tiangang landed on the altar, held the horsetail whisk in his hand, and threw it to the sky. Who? Above the sky, the wind and clouds suddenly changed color. The starlight that had been rushing down suddenly dispersed, and the 36 stars of the heavenly strength star were hidden in the daytime. When the clouds in the sky dispersed, everything returned to normal. The sky was high and the clouds were light, as if nothing had happened. Lord Yuan, it's been a long time, Shangguan said with a smile. On the altar, Yuan Tiangang smiled and said, Lord Shangguan, it's been a long time. Is this Lord Shangguan's? Yuan Tiangang smiled and said, Aren't you good at divination? See for yourself. Shangguan said with a smile. Chapter 867. Oh. Yuan Tiangang was slightly curious and immediately looked at Mo Yushi. As he looked, Yuan Tiangang's face turned solemn. Yuan Tiangang immediately stepped forward and said, Excuse me? Mo Yushi bowed slightly and said, Dezhou Holy Land, Lord Taoist Yushi greets Senior Yuan Tiangang. You flatter me. Yuan Tiangang immediately dodged. Yuan Tiangang had already calculated some things about Mo Yushi, but he wasn't sure if Jing Ming had recognized her. There are also times when Lord Yuan can't calculate? Shangguan smiled. Yuan Tiangang smiled bitterly. The Holy Master has recognized Yushi, Mo Yushi. Shangguan explained. Recognized? Yuan Tiangang's face immediately turned solemn. Yuan Tiangang greets Princess. Yuan Tiangang immediately said. Mo Yushi was slightly stunned. Princess? I don't dare. Mo Yushi immediately returned the greeting. I came in a hurry and didn't bring too much. This armored soybean soldier was made in my spare time. I give it to Princess. Yuan Tiangang took out a soybean and handed it over.
Soybean?
Mo Yushi looked blankly at the soybean that Yuan Tiangang handed over. Girl, why aren't you thanking Yuan Tiangang? These soybean armored soldiers are extraordinary. Shangguan immediately said from the side. Oh, thank you, Senior. Mo Yushi took it and said, Don't call me Senior. If Princess doesn't mind, just call me Mr. Yuan. Yuan Tiangang smiled. Okay, Mr. Yuan. Yushi is curious. What is this armored soybean soldier? Mo Yushi asked curiously. When Princess is in danger, plant this soybean in the soil and it will grow into an armored soybean soldier to block the danger for Princess. Yuan Tiangang explained patiently. Thank you, Mr. Yuan. Mo Yushi was knowledgeable and immediately knew how precious it was. Yuan Tiangang nodded and then looked at Shangguan. Lord Shangguan, how are the preparations? Holy Lord, do you still need to worry about me? How is it outside? Shangguan asked. Lord Di and Princess Taiping have already set up a formation outside. We are only waiting for the sacred lord. Yuan Tiangang said solemnly. That's good. Let's go. Follow me back to see the Holy Master. Shangguan said. Good. Yuan Tiangang nodded. Heavenly Tribulation Mountain Range. Yan Chuan was sitting in a large hall. The god's sword had been plundering the life force of the zombies for half a month. Yan Chuan had also benefited greatly from it. As he digested a large number of spirit stones, Yan Chuan's cultivation base had also soared. The first level of the lower void stage. Second level lower void stage. Third level of the lower void stage. Fourth level lower void stage. Rising 3 levels in a row. This was different from his previous cultivation. Now that he had reached the lower void realm, every increase in level was extremely difficult. At this moment, in just half a month, he had increased 3 levels in a row. Yan Chuan couldn't help but sigh at the fact that he had made the right choice to practice the sword. Just as Yan Chuan was preparing to break through to the 5th level, Yan Chuan suddenly raised his eyebrows. As soon as he opened his eyes, 2 rays of light suddenly shot out from his eyes. Good technique. You actually stepped into the god's sword formation and went all the way to the depths, Yan Chuan said solemnly. He stood up and waved his sleeves to put away all the spirit stones. This was because Yan Chuan knew that the opponent's powerhouse had arrived. It was no longer the time to cultivate. Yan Chuan stepped forward and walked toward the entrance of the large hall. The person who had broken into the god's sword formation was the Snake Emperor. The Snake Emperor did not look for Yan Chuan. Instead, as soon as he entered the god's sword formation, he relied on his extraordinary experience to go around the sword formation and find the place where Mr. Monroe was lying. The Heavenly Tribulation Meridian.
He stood at the foot of a mountain.
The Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes. Chapter 868. There is a sword array outside and a flag array inside. What is the secret in this Heaven's Calamity Point? The Heaven's Calamity Point has always been an ominous point. The Snake Emperor muttered to himself. Heaven's Calamity Point. The Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes and was about to enter.
1.
The moment the Snake Emperor stepped in, yellow light shot out from the mountain. Humph! The Snake Emperor snorted with disdain. He stomped his foot.
Boom!
The yellow light protecting the mountain shattered with a loud bang. The Snake Emperor was about to continue walking deeper.
Dang!
A bell chime sounded, and a yellow light shot out. The Snake Emperor's expression changed as he slammed his palm forward.
Boom!
The huge impact caused the surrounding rocks to fly in all directions and explosions to erupt everywhere. The Snake Emperor took a step back and the yellow light formed by the bell chime was dispersed. The Snake Emperor's expression darkened. A figure in a golden robe appeared in front of the Snake Emperor. Jin Deyu held the giant bell in his hand and stood in front of the Snake Emperor. Jin Deyu squinted his eyes and revealed a cold light. The Snake Emperor's eyes were cold too. The two of them were at each other's throats. Good treasure. The Snake Emperor looked at the giant bell and said affirmatively. Who are you? Jin Deyu asked. The Snake Emperor revealed a sinister smile and turned to look at the mountain again. So, the sword array outside wasn't set up by you? The Snake Emperor asked. Rumble. The huge god's sword array suddenly retracted, and the endless sword aura disappeared. The god's sword also flew to a hall not far away.
Quang.
The door of the hall opened, and Yan Chuan stepped out. The Snake Emperor looked over and raised his eyebrows. Someone from the Great Calamity Dynasty? Yan Chuan asked. Oh, you know about my Great Calamity Dynasty? Cough, cough. The Snake Emperor coughed with a handkerchief and looked at Yan Chuan with interest. Didn't you see my sword formation? Yan Chuan asked in a low voice.
I saw it.
But so what? The Snake Emperor smiled evilly. I don't care if King Gaiyu wants to fight with Jingming. But you better not provoke me. Yan Chuan said.
The
Snake Emperor's expression changed. Looking for a fight with Jingming, King of Gaia?
Who are you?
How do you know? The Snake Emperor said coldly. Is this a secret? Yan Chuan laughed. Secrets? They had just arrived and hadn't told anyone. How could this not be considered a secret? However, the Snake Emperor adjusted his state of mind very quickly. If that's the case, then get lost. The Snake Emperor said in a deep voice. Oh, get lost? Are all the officials of the Great Nightmare Heaven Dynasty like this? Yan Chuan sneered. The Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes, and a poisonous glint gradually appeared in his eyes. Yan Chuan also looked at the Snake Emperor coldly. The Snake Emperor remained motionless. Suddenly, a venomous light burst forth from his eyes.
Boom.
The ground in front of Yan Chuan suddenly shattered, and a huge black snake head, 1 zhang wide, rushed out from the ground. The snake head rushed out and opened its bloody mouth. With a roar, it opened its mouth and bit towards Yan Chuan. The huge snake was ferocious. Before the snake arrived, a fishy smell rushed towards him.
Roar.
The huge snake bit towards Yan Chuan, as if it wanted to swallow Yan Chuan in one bite. Yan Chuan faced the huge snake, and his body remained motionless. There was no trace of panic in his eyes. just as the huge snake was about to bite Yan Chuan. Bang! The huge snake suddenly stopped, and a look of surprise appeared in its eyes. The long snake body couldn't get any closer. Not far away, the snake emperor's expression changed.
Whoosh.
There seemed to be a huge force pulling the snake from the ground, pulling it back quickly. Roar. The huge snake roared, but it couldn't stop the force that came from underground.
Boom.
The huge snake was pulled back into the depths of the ground, and in the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. All that was left for the snake emperor was a look of, "Help me." Chapter 869. Yan Chuan vs. Serpent Emperor. When the giant snake broke out of the ground, it wanted the element of surprise and the control of the ground. But in the blink of an eye, it was pulled away by a force from the ground. Serpent Emperor was speechless. "Snake, you're the Serpent Emperor?" Yan Chuan said with a serious expression. He had been in the Dazhao Holy Land for 2 years, so naturally there were spies in the southern Divine Continent. Yan Chuan also had a certain understanding of the Nightmare Dynasty. Serpent Emperor? The Nightmare Dynasty's supreme beast. Serpent Emperor narrowed his eyes, and the viciousness in his eyes grew. "Who are you?" Serpent Emperor asked coldly. Yan Chuan smiled and said, "It doesn't matter who I am. This world isn't as simple as you think. If you leave now, I'll let bygones be bygones." Let bygones be bygones? TSK, 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 the people of this world really overestimate themselves. With just you? 4th level lower void stage? If I can't force you to leave today, I won't be called Serpent Emperor. Serpent Emperor said with a cold light in his eyes. As he spoke, Serpent Emperor suddenly waved his hand. The surrounding ground suddenly trembled as if there was an earthquake, but the frequency of the earthquake was different in every place. The ground bulged as if there were many things underground.
Boom.
The ground shattered, and countless snake heads suddenly emerged from the ground. The snake heads soared into the sky, and the sea of snakes surged. On the ground, within a radius of 10 miles, there were numerous poisonous snakes. Countless poisonous snakes coiled around each other, and it was like a snake cave magnified thousands of times. Serpent Emperor stood on the head of a 300 feet large snake. His eyes were cold as he looked down at the sea of snakes. Cough, cough, cough. His eyes were cold as he coughed. Snakes, as far as the eye could see. The mountains were filled with snakes. The trees were crushed by the large snakes, and the mountains and rivers were filled with countless poisonous snakes. Just the appearance of these poisonous snakes was much stronger than the previous zombies. Some of the large snakes even opened their mouths and swallowed a large number of small snakes. All of them looked at Yan Chuan with poisonous eyes. Sword chi shot out from under Yan Chuan's feet, making it difficult for the poisonous snakes to approach. "Are you going to retreat?" Serpent Emperor said coldly. Yan Chuan smiled coldly. "My people devour him." The Snake Emperor shouted coldly. Roar! Roar! The 10,000 snakes attacked madly, each of them opening their mouths, aiming directly at Yan Chuan. Like a huge tsunami, layer upon layer, they swept towards Yan Chuan. Humph! Yan Chuan snorted coldly. In front of Yan Chuan, a large number of giant vines suddenly rushed out. As soon as the giant vines appeared, they brought with them a powerful force that instantly shattered the giant snakes around Yan Chuan.
Bam, 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 bam.
Giant vines rushed out from the sea of snakes and quickly wrapped around the poisonous snakes. The surrounding ground was already filled with vines and snakes. Ka 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 ka. The twisting force of the snake and the twisting force of the giant vine were locked in a stalemate. For a moment, a fierce battle broke out.
Boom, boom, boom.
Snake tails and giant vines constantly clashed with each other. The huge collision caused many places to explode. Above the sea of snakes and vines, a giant vine supported Yan Chuan and slowly floated up. Yan Chuan stood on a giant vine, and the Snake Emperor stood on the head of a giant snake. They looked at each other. Vines? The sea of snakes narrowed their eyes. At this moment, a bell rang not far away.
Dang.
The bell rang directly into the ground. Under the huge impact, the ground trembled.
Bam.
Bam! A large number of poisonous snakes burst out from the ground. Chapter 870. Jin Deyu held the giant bell in his hand and looked at the Snake Emperor coldly. Fighting with me is just a pretense. You still can't forget about the Heaven's Calamity Meridian. Yan Chuan said, with cold eyes. So what? Do you think you can stop me?
Crack.
The Snake Emperor roared. He formed a seal with his hand. Grow. With a loud roar, the giant snake under his feet suddenly grew. In the blink of an eye, it grew to a length of 100 zhang, and then to a length of 1,000 zhang. The giant snake's eyes emitted a dazzling white light as it opened its mouth and roared. The snake's tail stood up and slapped the ground.
Boom.
The earth shook and the mountains shook. The giant snake's body was as big as a few mountains and rivers. When the snake pressed down, all the other snakes submitted to it. The giant snake emitted a majestic aura. Under the pressure of the aura, the trees in the distance all bent down. Jin Dayu's expression changed. Yan Chuan looked at the 1,000-zhang snake and focused his eyes. This was the first time Yan Chuan saw such a giant snake. When the snake released its power, Yan Chuan could feel it. It was definitely an upper emptiness realm expert. The giant snake faced Yan Chuan and suddenly roared. Roar! It was like a shock wave. With a roar, a hurricane rushed toward Yan Chuan. The soil under Yan Chuan's feet shot up into the sky. Even the hall behind Yan Chuan was destroyed. Yan Chuan's eyes focused. Vine Demon. Yeah. In the sea of vines, the Vine Demon slowly emerged. The Vine Demon was huge because its vines extended for 10 li. When the giant Vine Demon floated up with Yan Chuan, it was no less majestic than the giant snake.
Yeah.
Roar. The giant snake and the Vine Demon fought against each other. The giant snakes and vines on the ground didn't look so scary anymore. Vine Demon? The Snake Emperor squinted his eyes and stared at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan sneered and pulled out the Jade Emperor sword from his back. He turned his head slightly. Yan Chuan's body was suddenly surrounded by a bloody mist.
Bang.
Blood mist suddenly appeared. Yan Chuan's hair also quickly turned blood red. The Snake Emperor's eyes revealed an evil light. Yan Chuan was using his super mystique at this moment, and his eyes also revealed an evil light. In fact, they were even more evil than the Snake Emperor's.
Boom.
With Yan Chuan as the center, the ground beneath his feet suddenly turned bright red. At some point in time, a large amount of fresh blood had appeared on the 10,000 Snake Sea, forming a huge sea of blood. Yan Chuan was surrounded by waves of blood. A vast sea of blood surrounded Yan Chuan, making Yan Chuan look like a peerless demon god. Yan Chuan's aura surged as he rushed forward. The surrounding snakes dodged in fright. Not far away, Jin Deyu looked at Yan Chuan in astonishment. This was the first time Jin Deyu witnessed the power of Yan Chuan's sacred art. How could this sacred art's aura be stronger than his? The Snake Emperor looked at Yan Chuan in astonishment. Transformation? His blood-red hair draped down to Yan Chuan's waist. Snake Emperor, are you leaving or not? Yan Chuan said coldly. Cough, cough, cough. Leave? What a joke. The Snake Emperor said coldly. Yan Chuan waved the Jade Emperor sword in his hand.
Boom.
From the sea of blood below, billions of sword auras suddenly appeared. The sword auras rushed towards the rolling snakes in the sea of blood. In an instant, the snakes in the sea of blood were all hit by thousands of blood swords.
Ah.
Roar. Woo. The snakes roared, but the blood swords were too sharp. In an instant, tens of thousands of snakes wailed and fell into a pool of blood. Seeing countless snakes die in an instant, the Snake Emperor roared angrily, "You are courting death." Whoosh! The giant snake opened its mouth and spat out endless poisonous smoke. Its body rushed towards Yan Chuan quickly. Chapter 871. Roar. Wherever the poisonous smoke went, the sea of blood was immediately dyed green. The toxicity was too fierce. Even a large number of giant vines were instantly corroded by the poisonous smoke. However, the vines could regenerate, and the blood sea depended on Yan Chuan's will. Humph. Yan Chuan took a step forward and slashed with the Jade Emperor's sword. The sword slashed down, and a huge wave of blood followed. The energy sword slashed at the giant snake.
Boom.
The sword and the snake collided. The blood sea surged into the sky. The huge shockwave from the collision shook the entire Heavenly Tribulation mountain range.
Kikik.
Good snake.
Again.
Super Yan Chuan shouted excitedly.
Ah.
The vine demons quickly coiled around the giant snake. The giant snake was also very strong. With a shake, it shattered many vines. The giant snake's skin was very thick. Yan Chuan's sword could not cut through the snake's skin. Hiss! The Serpent Emperor hissed. Another 10,000 feet long snake appeared in the blood sea. The Serpent Emperor controlled the two giant snakes to surround Yan Chuan. Although Yan Chuan was being chased by the two snakes, he was not afraid. Instead, he was excited. Whoosh! His body moved nimbly through the blood sea. Roar! Yan Chuan let out a loud roar, and the blood sea soared to the sky, rolling up monstrous waves towards the two giant snakes. Hiss! The Serpent Emperor hissed again. A third 10,000 feet long snake appeared in the blood sea. Another one? They're all at the upper void realm? Jin Dayu's expression changed. With the appearance of the three giant snakes, the blood sea's energy seemed to be insufficient. Yan Chuan was also in a difficult position. Ha 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 ha. What do you think? Another one. Hiss. The Serpent Emperor laughed evilly. Bang. The fourth 10,000 feet long snake appeared and surrounded Yan Chuan. It seemed like Yan Chuan had nowhere to run. Your Majesty, I will help you. Jin Dayu shouted from afar. Don't come over. We have our ways. Be careful of a sneak attack. Yan Chuan roared.
Ah.
Jin Dayu's expression changed, and he stopped immediately. Be careful of a sneak attack. You have a way?
Huh?
Do you have any other ideas? Snake Emperor asked in disbelief. Stepping on the vine monster, Yan Chuan looked up at the sky and suddenly roared. Roar! With a loud roar, a beam of light shot down from the sky. A beam of starlight instantly enveloped Yan Chuan. Star will. Yan Chuan mobilized the power of the stars, and his strength increased once again.
Boom.
Because of Yan Chuan's strength, the blood sea rose again. The blood sea soared into the sky and enveloped the four giant snakes and the Snake Emperor in the blink of an eye.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
The sea of blood churned wildly. The sky to the south of the Heavenly Tribulation acupoint was completely covered by the sea of blood. Inside, Yan Chuan and the Snake Emperor fought each other, splattering a torrential rain of blood. Under the fierce battle, the south of the Heavenly Tribulation acupoint was completely dyed red. Jin Dayu looked at the gigantic blood sea in front of him in shock. For a moment, he was stunned, and then he laughed bitterly. All this while, Jin Dayu had thought that Yan Chuan was strong in every aspect, except for his strength. But at this moment, Jin Dayu suddenly realized that it wasn't that Yan Chuan was weaker than him, but that Yan Chuan had been unwilling to reveal it. The vine monster could be seen as a Dharma treasure. Then, wasn't this blood sea a portrayal of Yan Chuan's true strength? At this moment, the last bit of unwillingness in Jin Dayu's heart to submit to Yan Chuan completely dissipated. At this moment, north of the Heavenly Tribulation acupoint, on the peak of a mountain, Mohina Dojin and Tao Lord Yu looked at the blood sea in the distance in surprise. Yan Chuan is indeed strange, Tao Lord Yu said with a dark expression. Speaking of which, up until now, Tao Lord Yu had not looked at Yan Chuan properly. After all, his cultivation was too weak. But right now, could he still say that he was weak? But Mohina Dojin stared at Jin Dayu, who was still in a daze there. Looking at that giant bell above Jin Dayu's head, An uncontrollable desire flashed across Mohina Dojin's eyes. Whoosh! Mohina Dojin pounced straight towards Jindayu. Chapter 872. The unlucky Mohina Dojindayu was shocked by the sea of blood in front of him. However, he still remembered Yan Chuan's words. Be careful of sneak attacks. Suddenly, Jindayu felt a threat approaching from behind. Jindayu's hair stood on end, and his body swayed violently. The giant bell above his head started to vibrate.
Dang.
The bell rang and the space around the giant bell seemed to be blurred. The huge, vibrating force collided with the incoming palm. Boom! The outstretched palm was knocked back with a loud bang. Jindayu turned his head to look at the attacker. Mohina Dojin. Jindayu's face darkened. Sun, fire, essence stone. Magical treasures refined from it are indeed extraordinary. Mohina Dojin sighed at the quality of the giant bell. Mohina Dojin, shameless. Jindayu flew up with the giant bell in his hand. Shameless? This is mine. Kid, give it to me. Lord Black Sun waved his hand, and a large golden net suddenly appeared in his palm. The net radiated with towering flames as it swept towards Jindayu and the giant bell. Wah! Jindayu shouted and turned into a huge three-legged golden crow. Jindayu knew that he was no match for Mohina Dojin. He had to use his strongest ability. He turned into a golden crow and clawed at the top of the giant bell. Flames shot out from his body as if he had become one with the giant bell and turned into a sun.
Boom.
The huge fire net was even more magical. It wrapped around the sun in an instant. Ha ha ha, you are only SSO. This bell is wasted in your hands. Let me take it. Mohina Dojin laughed. Chaos second echo. Dang. Bang. The giant net exploded with a loud bang. It turned into thousands of pieces.
Wah!
The three-legged golden crow let out a caw, then opened its mouth and swallowed all of the fiery chi on the giant net. Humph! Mohina Dojin's face changed. He stretched out his hand and took out another fire lotus. Then he threw it at the three-legged golden crow.
Wah!
The three-legged golden crow opened its mouth again. It swallowed all the flames in one gulp. Mohina Dojin's flames lost their effect. Mohina Dojin's face changed. What species is this beast? It could even refine the flames of the fire lotus? That was the poisonous fire. Good, good, good. Let's see how long you can play with fire in front of me. Lord Black Sun said with a cold expression. Fire? In the eyes of Dao Monarch Black Sun, apart from Jing Ting, no one else in the world could outplay him. A little. How dare a little beast Dojin swallow his fire? Mohina Dojin Mohina. And Red Dojin Red above. True Samadhi flames. Lord Mantis Sun tossed the small bottle over, and a large amount of flames gushed out and enveloped the three-legged golden crow.
Wah!
The three-legged golden crow cried out and swallowed it. The three-legged golden crow was surprised. Did Mohina Dojin really think that it was an ordinary beast cultivator?
Gulp.
The rolling Samadhi true fire was swallowed by the three-legged golden crow. What does it matter if you can refine a little flame? My bottle contains 30 million Samadhi true fire. Let's see how long you can refine it. Mohina Dojin read. Chapter 873. Even if he could refine a little bit of fire, it was not a little bit in front of him. It was 30 million true Samadhi fire. Even an upper void realm cultivator could be burned. Gulialu. Jindayu opened his mouth and kept swallowing. It was not refining. To Jindayu, as long as it was fire, it was a tonic. No one knew except for Jindayu himself. His ancestor, the invincible ancestor, was a great existence that was born from the sun. The ancestral court of all fire in the world, the sun. To be born from the sun, would it be afraid of fire? Gulialu. Mohina Dojin would never have thought that he was giving Jindayu what he wanted the most. The rolling true Samadhi fire poured into Jindayu's mouth. Impossible. Why are you still fine? You swallowed half of the true Samadhi fire that I collected for 1,000 years? Mohina Dojin's expression changed. Naturally, Jin Dayu would not reply. He continued to gobble up as he silently made a fortune. Humph, can't speak? Looks like you can't take it anymore. I'll stuff you to death. Mohina Dojin roared. Rumble. The amount of true Samadhi fire increased again. In the distance, Dao Lord Yu was slightly stunned. At the same time, he felt awkward. What was awkward? Dao Lord Yu thought about it and finally understood. Where was the awkwardness? Mohina Dojin held a bottle and kept feeding the three-legged golden crow flames, like a mortal feeding milk. How was this a battle? Dao Lord Yu was conflicted. Should he say it? Bam! The last true Samadhi fire poured into the three-legged golden crow's mouth. Mohina Dojin looked at the bottle in his hand in a daze, his face full of disbelief. How is this possible? This is the amount that I saved for 1,000 years. Mohina Dojin said in shock. In the distance, the three-legged golden crow flapped its wings. The flames around its body became even stronger. Mohina Dojin, why did you stop? Jin Dayu shouted. Mohina Dojin's face darkened. This was enough to burn an upper void stage cultivator. Humph. Evil creature, since you want it, I'll let you have a taste of real fire. Mohina Dojin's eyes flashed coldly. Mohina Dojin roared, Great merit, Dharma manifestation.
Boom.
A golden light descended from the sky, and Mohina Dojin immediately radiated golden light in all directions. After mobilizing the virtuous Dharma idol of the Great Zhao Holy Land, Mohina Dojin's strength skyrocketed once again. Jin Dayu was definitely not Mohina Dojin's opponent. As long as Mohina Dojin made a move, he would definitely be able to snatch the bell. But at this moment, Mohina Dojin suddenly became stubborn. It was also because of his bad luck. The flame that Mohina Dojin was so proud of couldn't do anything to the three-legged golden crow. Flame was something that Mohina Dojin was so proud of, but now it couldn't do anything to the opponent? It was a great humiliation. Mohina Dojin's eyes hardened, and he reached out his hand to grab the sky. The pillar of light that connected to the sun suddenly emitted an even more dazzling golden light and produced a rolling sound. Rumble. The rolling flame was drawn down from the sun. What are you doing? The three-legged golden crow's face sank. What am I doing? Can't you swallow it? The true Samadhi fire that I have accumulated for 1,000 years has been taken away by you. Humph. Continue to swallow. Let's see how you will swallow the world's most domineering true sun fire. What I burned you that day was only the true sun fire's fire energy, but this is the purest true sun fire.
Die.
Mohina Dojin roared.
Boom.
The rolling golden true sun fire that was drawn down by Mohina Dojin rushed straight toward Jin Dayu. The most domineering true sun fire? The rolling true sun fire rushed toward the three-legged golden crow. Chapter 874. The three-legged golden crow suddenly opened its mouth.
Wow.
Under Mohina Dojin's thankful gaze, the three-legged golden crow did not have time to escape. Instead, it opened its mouth and let the true sun fire enter it. Rumble. The powerful true sun fire seemed to burn the entire world red as it surged into the three-legged golden crow's mouth. The three-legged golden crow flapped its wings while twisting. Seeing the three-legged golden crow twisting, Mohina Dojin's face twisted into a smile. Ha 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 ha. Mohina Dojin laughed and continued to activate the true sun fire. Playing with fire, no one in this world can compare to me except the Holy Master. Mohina Dojin said confidently. At the same time, Mohina Dojin's forehead was sweating profusely. It was obvious that activating the true sun fire was extremely taxing. But it was all worth it. The three-legged golden crow in the distance was constantly shedding feathers. Mohina Dojin only saw the three-legged golden crow shedding feathers, but he did not see that the three-legged golden crow was not only shedding feathers, but also growing feathers. Where the feathers fell, larger golden feathers grew out.
Caw, caw, caw.
Jin Dayu's aura grew stronger. His ancestor was born from the sun. To Jin Dayu, the true sun fire was not destructive. It was incomparably warm like amniotic fluid. Sensing the increase in Jin Dayu's aura, Mohina Dojin's face darkened. What's going on? Is it a dying counterattack? Rumble. At this moment, in the sky above Jin Dayu's head, rolling dark clouds suddenly appeared, blotting out the sky and pressing down on Jin Dayu. No, you're wrong. Tao Lord Yu exclaimed. This is the 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation. The 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation. Jin Dayu is cultivating with the help of your flames. He has broken through. Tao Lord Yu exclaimed. Breakthrough? Mohina Dojin was extremely shocked. How could this be? He worked so hard, but not only did he not burn the 3-legged golden crow to death, he even helped it break through? How did this beast cultivate?
Boom.
Mohina Dojin was so angry that he cut off the supply of the true sun flame. At this moment, Mohina Dojin finally understood where the 30 million true samadhi fire had gone to. It had all gone to Jin Dayu. Mohina Dojin was extremely embarrassed, but Jin Dayu was extremely excited. Jin Dayu wasn't worried at all under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation. Instead, he was excited.
Wow.
The 3-legged golden crow flapped its wings and rushed toward the tribulation clouds with the giant bell in its hand. In the blink of an eye, they charged into the rolling tribulation clouds.
Dang.
A loud bell rang out from the tribulation clouds, and the originally thick tribulation clouds instantly shattered.
Wah.
The golden crow cried, and endless flames erupted. The huge dark clouds suddenly exploded and burned. The 6 in 9 heavenly tribulation was shattered by the 3-legged golden crow. He had passed the 69 heavenly tribulations. Tao Lord Young Moon opened her mouth in shock. Tao Lord Mantis, on the other hand, was so embarrassed that he wanted to slap himself. He had such a huge advantage previously. He could have done anything to Jin Dayu. Why did he have to burn him? Now, not only did Jin Dayu not die, but his cultivation was also burned. Upper Void Realm? Jin Dayu had reached the Upper Void Realm. In the sky, the 3-legged golden crow's body swayed and turned into a human again. Thank you, Mohina Dojin, for fulfilling my wish. Jin Dayu said with a smile. Fulfilling my wish? Fulfilling your wish, my foot. Mohina Dojin was burning with anger. Upper Void Realm? So what? Mohina Dojin's eyes narrowed, and he reached out to grab again. This time, Mohina Dojin didn't need to be angry anymore. Chapter 875. Editor Mohina Dojin cultivated fire. He believed that other than Jing Ting, no one else in the world could match him. That was why he repeatedly used fire to attack Jin Dayu. Fire. This was Mohina Dojin's field of expertise. From the beginning to the end, Mohina Dojin did not believe that anyone could withstand his fire. It was because of his overconfidence that he failed to burn Jin Dayu and instead created Jin Dayu. Earlier, capturing Jin Dayu might have taken some effort, but it wasn't difficult. But now Jin Dayu actually broke through? Upper Void Stage? Upper Void Stage? So what? Mohina Dojin's eyes narrowed as he reached out his hand again. This time, Mohina Dojin did not need to be popular anymore. Mohina Dojin, even if he did not use fire, his strength was still incomparably tyrannical. He struck out with his right palm, forming a golden palm in the air and grabbing at Jin Dayu.
Clang. Clang. Clang.
The bell in Jin Dayu's hand vibrated rapidly, sending out waves after waves of powerful sound waves towards the Mao Sun golden palm.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Finally, 100 feet away, Zhong Ming managed to block the golden dawn palm. Ka 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 ka. The golden palm let out a series of cracking noises, attempting to crush the sound waves created by the bell. However, Jin Dayu had also activated all of his power, causing the giant bell to release wave after wave of sound waves. In the past, Mohina Dojin would have been able to take down the bell in an instant with just a burst of fire from his palm. But now, would Mohina Dojin still dare to play with fire? Mohina Dojin and Jindayu both had ferocious expressions on their faces, as if they had reached their limits. However, even though Mohina Dojin did not use fire, he could not do anything to Jindayu. Mohina Dojin narrowed his eyes. His left hand, which was hidden in his sleeve, suddenly produced a black lotus. It was the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus that Mou Shi and Yen Chuan had obtained from the Feng Shui formation. The moment the 10,000 Wonders demonic lotus appeared, Mohina Dojin's left hand was suddenly dyed pitch black. The surrounding air was suddenly dyed by this demonic aura. Mohina Dojin's eyes turned cold, and he was about to attack with his pitch-black left hand. "Maori, I'll help you." Dao Lord Yuyu's voice came from afar. Whoosh! A silver light suddenly appeared and charged towards the giant bell. Maori used Dojins, Yuyu of the 10,000 Wonders. 10. I have used Dojins SS 10 years. I of you of 2 that of yous you 2. You do you use of there. Maori and Jindayu were in a stalemate, while Dao Lord Yu reaped the benefits. Bastard. Dao Lord Blacksun's face tightened. However, Dao Lord Yu would not listen to him. Instead, he reached out and grabbed the giant bell. Oh! Dao Lord Yu's expression suddenly changed. A silver palm suddenly appeared in front of Dao Lord Yu. Hong! A powerful collision forced Dao Lord Yu to retreat hundreds of meters. This collision also caused the battle between Maori and Jindayu to break apart. Strong winds blew in all directions. In the center of the storm, apart from Jindayu, there was another white-robed figure. It was this white-robed figure who forced Dao Lord Yu back with a palm. By Ditian's, Dao Lord Yu's expression changed. Standing in front of Jindayu was the sovereign of Great Jin, Bai Ditian. In the wind, Bai Ditian's white robes fluttered. "Thank you for your help, Sovereign Bai." Jindayu took a deep breath. Bai Ditian nodded gently and did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Maori and Yu. Chapter 876. Maori and Yu's faces darkened. They knew how powerful Bai Ditian was. Bai Ditian, the sacred lord thinks highly of you, but you are unwilling to join the Great Zhao Sacred Ground. Now, do you want to become enemies with the Great Zhao Sacred Ground?
Dao Lord Yu said.
Enemies? Can you represent Jingyu? The Great Zhao Sacred Ground invaded the Great Zhao Sacred Ground with zombies and did not care about the Great Zhao Sacred Ground's dignity. Instead, you came to steal the Dharma treasure of an ally of the Great Zhao Sacred Ground? I wonder how Jingyu will punish you if she knows. Bai Ditian sneered. The two's faces changed. However, Maori quickly retorted, "Ally? Since when did the Great Zhao Sacred Ground become an ally of the Great Zhao Sacred Ground?" Bai Ditian smiled and turned to look at the huge blood sea in the south. "Yen Chuan," Bai Ditian shouted. As he shouted, his powerful aura suppressed the direction of the blood sea.
Bam!
The vast blood sea suddenly retracted. Yen Chuan stepped on the vine demon and flew into the sky, leaving the snake sovereign alone. He led the 4 giant snakes and looked coldly. "Bai Ditian, you came out?" Yen Chuan asked curiously. "With 2 Dao Lords here, can I still guard the heavenly tribulation acupoint?" Bai Ditian smiled faintly. When Bai Ditian said that, Yen Chuan also smiled. "Qing Long!" Yen Chuan shouted. At the heavenly tribulation acupoint, a figure flew up. "Qing Long greets Mohina Dojin and Dao Lord Yu." Qing Long immediately said, "Qing Long? Why are you not following Dao Lord Yushi? What are you doing here?" Mohina Dojin said in a low voice. "Qing Long is here on Dao Lord Yushi's orders to help the Hades Emperor guard the Great Zhao Sacred Ground's borders. Furthermore, the Hades Emperor's actions here represent Dao Lord Yushi." Qing Long said solemnly. "His actions represent Mo Yushi?" Maori and Yu's faces sank. "Since the 2 of you feel that we are a hindrance, then we will not interfere in the upcoming calamity. The 2 of you, please do as you please." Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. "Humph." Mohina Dojin snorted. At this moment, Mohina Dojin could see that it was impossible to snatch the bell again. In the distance, the Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes as he stared at Yan Chuan. Cough, cough, cough. Are you Yan Chuan? Why do you want to fight with me since you have a strong upper void stage martial artist to help you? The Snake Emperor narrowed his eyes and stared at Yan Chuan. The moment Bai Ditian released his aura, the Snake Emperor could sense how powerful he was. However, why hadn't Bai Ditian attacked earlier? Yan Chuan looked at Snake Emperor, then at Dao Lord Yu and Dao Lord Ri. He took a deep breath and said, on one hand, it's because you are unwilling to forgive me. On the other hand, I represent Dao Lord Yuxi of the Great Zhao dynasty, and these two are only from the Great Jin dynasty. Since I represent Dao Lord Yuxi, I naturally have to stop you from causing trouble in the Great Zhao dynasty's territory. However, it seems that Dao Lord Ri and Dao Lord Yu are unwilling? Since that's the case, then Yan Chuan will not participate. Mohina Dojin and Dao Lord Yu felt suffocated. Yan Chuan had discovered them? He deliberately lured them out? The Snake Emperor also narrowed his eyes. Maori, Dao Lord Yu, and the Snake Emperor suddenly felt that they had been schemed against. However, at this moment, they could no longer target Yan Chuan. The three of you, please. Under the venomous gazes of the three, Yan Chuan, Bai Ditian, Jin Dayu, and Qing Long retreated to the side. Your Majesty? How did you know they were here? Jin Dayu asked curiously. Bai Ditian discovered them. If I had called Bai Ditian in from the beginning, the two Dao Lords would definitely have watched the tigers fight and reaped the benefits. That's why I personally took action to deal with the Snake Emperor and lure the two Dao Lords out. In the end, they couldn't hold it in. Yan Chuan explained softly. Chapter 877. At the peak of a mountain in the Heaven Tribulation Mountain Range, Yan Chuan, Jin Dayu, and Bai Ditian were watching the battle in the distance. The two Dao Lords, Maori and Yu, were attacking the Snake Emperor. Hiss! Hiss! The Snake Emperor hissed, and 4 more giant snakes appeared. They roared and charged at Maori and Yu. Evil creature, you're courting death. Mohina Dojin roared. The 4 giant snakes were nothing in front of the two Dao Lords. The two Dao Lords were like the sun and moon as they charged at the Snake Emperor. Cough! 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 The Snake Emperor coughed as he retreated. Yan Chuan and the other two watched solemnly. As for Qing Long, he went to guard the Heaven Tribulation Meridian again. This Snake Emperor seems to be injured? Why does he keep coughing? Jin Dayu asked curiously. This Snake Emperor is not simple. If I'm not wrong, when he was at his peak, he was stronger than Maori and Yu combined. Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Oh? Then why is he retreating? Moreover, when he fought with you earlier, he did not have much of an advantage. Bai Ditian asked curiously. The Snake Emperor did not want to use his full strength. When he fought with me, he released some of his strength. If the Snake Emperor is willing to fight with his life on the line, he will be able to resolve this crisis quickly. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Then why did he? Jin Dayu did not understand. You guessed right. He is injured, and his injuries are extremely serious. It is not his physical body, but his birth providence. There should be a crack in his birth providence. Yan Chuan said solemnly. His birth providence was damaged? Yes. That's why he looks like he has tuberculosis. Yan Chuan nodded. How did his birth providence get damaged? Bai Ditian asked with a frown. I'm not sure, but my feeling is definitely right. I even feel that if he was at his peak, even you, Bai Ditian, might not be his match. Yan Chuan said as he looked at Bai Ditian. Oh. Bai Ditian's eyes narrowed. Bai Ditian knew Yan Chuan's background and naturally knew that Yan Chuan would not speak carelessly. Was the Snake Emperor really that powerful in the past? Cough, 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 cough. In the distance, the Snake Emperor kept coughing. Tuberculosis fiend, just give up. You 8 giant snakes won't be able to stop us. Tao Lord Solar shouted coldly. The Snake Emperor looked at the two of them with cold eyes. 16. The Snake Emperor shouted.
Boom.
Suddenly, 8 giant snakes emerged from the ground.
Pooh.
The Snake Emperor coughed out a mouthful of blood. His face turned even paler as he stared coldly at Tao Lord Yu and Tao Lord Yuri. 16 giant snakes? The two Tao Lords, Maori and Yue, revealed looks of shock. Snake? How much did he have? In the distance, Yan Chuan, Jin Dayu, and Bai Ditian all frowned as they watched. When he was fighting Yan Chuan, he only had 4. Now he had 16. Where did they come from? Bai Ditian, before you came, how is the recruitment of the Great Jin Empire? Yan Chuan asked. An army of 10 million. Bai Ditian said solemnly. 10 million? Yan Chuan nodded. My tiger race is continuously advancing to the Great Jin Empire. Now we have about 1 million tiger cavalry. Bai Ditian said. That's not enough. Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Your Majesty, that's still not enough? Jin Dayu asked in confusion. Time waits for no one. The battle in Jingying will begin soon. Whether Jingying succeeds or not, the world will change. I have to unify the East Divine Continent as soon as possible. An army of 10 million? It's too little. We can only replenish it during battle, Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Chapter 878. Unify the East Divine Continent? Jin Dayu was slightly taken aback before his expression turned solemn. Yes. Far away, the battle continued. The 16 gigantic snakes were still unable to stop the 2 Tao Lords. Each of the gigantic snakes was riddled with injuries as though they were about to be defeated at any moment. Cough, cough, cough. The Snake Emperor stood on the head of a gigantic snake, and his coughs were getting worse. When he saw the 2 Tao Lords pressing over, his expression was extremely terrible. 32. The Snake Emperor cried out with difficulty. Just as the Snake Emperor was conjuring hand seals and was about to strike, a deafening roar sounded from the south. You little thief, you're courting death. Along with this roar, black fog billowed from the south. The black fog covered the skies and swept over like a storm. Hong! The black fog rushed towards the 2 Tao Lords. Even though the 2 Tao Lords were blessed with good karma, they were still pushed back by 1,000 feet. The 2 Tao Lords, 1 gold and 1 silver, emitted a dazzling light that blocked the invasion of the black fog. Both of their expressions changed. The battle came to an end. They looked at the black-robed figure beside the Snake Emperor in shock. Huff, 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 huff. A strong wind blew against the robes of the black-robed figure. The black-robed figure extended a skeletal claw, and a green light surged into the body of the Snake Emperor. Huff! The Snake Emperor heaved a long sigh. His complexion was much better. As for the gigantic snake on the ground, it flicked its tail and disappeared gradually. It disappeared into thin air just like that, as though it was an illusion to begin with. Thank you, Your Majesty, the Snake Emperor said gratefully. Snake Emperor, just you wait. I'll take their hearts and livers to nourish your body. The black-robed figure said coldly. Cough, cough, cough. Thank you, Your Majesty. The Snake Emperor nodded and turned to look at the 2 Tao Lords coldly. King Gaiyu. Tao Lord Yu's expression changed. The one who came to assist the Snake Emperor was the Emperor of the Great Nightmare Heaven Dynasty, King Gaiyu. King Gaiyu held a scepter in his hands, and 2 skeletal eyes that glowed with a dim light could be seen from his hat. Tao Lord Yu, Mohina Dojin, you shall be killed for hurting my beloved subject. King Gaiyu shouted coldly. King Gaiyu and you. Suddenly, a green light shot up into the sky from the scepter. Doomsday Judgment. King of Gaia shouted coldly. Suddenly, a black cloud appeared in the skies. Instantly, a black beam of light shot down from the black cloud towards Tao Lord Yu. Tao Lord Yu's expression changed. Silver light shone from her body as she raised the Dharma treasure, Moon's string wheel, and slashed towards the sky. Dao Lord Yu Yu was hit by the black light, and the surrounding silver light shattered. Like a cannonball, he rushed down and smashed into the ground.
Boom.
Dao Lord Yu Yu smashed a huge pit with a radius of 1,000 feet. In the middle of the huge pit, there was a deep hole, smashing Dao Lord Yu Yu deep into the ground. Judgment Day. King of Gaia called out again. Yet another streak of black light shot straight towards Dao Lord Black Sun. Solar golden light. Even though Mohina Dojin was radiating a dazzling brilliance, he was still far from being able to match up to King of Gaia. King of Gaia's furious strike caused Mohina Dojin to follow in the footsteps of Dao Lord Yu Yu, smashing deep into the ground. In the distance, Jin Dayu gaped in shock. King of Gaia? Armageddon? Wasn't he way too strong? Maori and Yu Yu flew out from the hole in the ground. Their clothes were tattered, and they looked extremely pathetic. Both of them looked at King of Gaia in shock. Wasn't he way too strong? Perfected Lord Lan Yu. Why aren't you guys coming out? Mohina Dojin roared furiously. Swoosh.
Swoosh.
Instantly, the 5 sect masters of the vassal sects appeared. They took out their Dharma treasures and looked at King of Gaia warily. Chapter 879. Behind King Gaia, 10 figures in black robes gradually appeared and stood respectfully behind King Gaia. 2 of them were supporting the Snake Emperor. King Gaia's skeleton eyes were still glaring at the 7 upper void realm cultivators. All of you came together? Just nice. I'll use your skull as a gift to Jingting. King Gaia said coldly. Attack together. Mohina Dojin roared. Roar. The 7 upper void realm cultivators unleashed an extremely powerful aura at the same time. Holding on to their respective treasures, they charged towards King Gaia. In an instant, 7 rays of light pierced through the sky like rainbows. Wherever they passed, the ground would churn. They charged towards King Gaia. Just in time. Final verdict. King Gaia raised his scepter towards the sky again.
Boom.
The dark clouds in the sky suddenly expanded by 10 times. In an instant, 7 rays of black light pillars descended from the sky and charged towards the 7 upper void realm cultivators. Not good. Mohina Dojin's expression changed. The 7 upper void realm cultivators raised their respective treasures and charged towards the black light.
Boom.
The 7 of them were instantly pressed down to the ground by a huge force. Large cracks appeared on the ground as the 7 of them stepped on it. However, the 7 of them were not pushed into the depths of the ground. Kaka kaka. The 7 of them struggled to resist the black light descending from the sky. How could this be? How could King Gaia be so strong?
Puffed.
Perfected Lord Lan Yu exclaimed as he vomited blood. Dao Lord Yu Yu was also struggling bitterly. The moon crescent wheel in her hand showed signs of collapsing again. Large cracks appeared on it. I still underestimated him.
King Gaia?
Mohina Dojin's expression was extremely unpleasant. All this while, Mohina Dojin had never felt that he was small. Other than Jingting, he should be one of the strongest people in the world. The strongest group of people. But what was happening in front of him? King Gaia alone? He could not even defend himself?
Why?
Mohina Dojin's eyes were bloodshot. Not only Mohina Dojin but the other upper void realm cultivators were also the same. In front of King Gaia, they could not even resist. Everyone felt that it was not over. There was an even more dangerous feeling coming from the dark clouds.
Buzz.
Suddenly, 7 saber-shaped red lights appeared above the black clouds that were connected to the 7 black lights. The moment the 7 saber-shaped red lights appeared, they emitted a bone-piercing cold chi, causing frost to fall in all directions. 7 red sabers slashed down along with the black light, slashing toward the 7 upper void realm masters. King of Gaia had single-handedly suppressed the 7 upper emptiness stage elites. The moment the red saber appeared, the faces of the 7 upper emptiness stage elites turned cold.
No.
True Monarch Lan Yu roared. Before the red saber arrived, the killing intent had already frozen his bone marrow. It was a feeling that he could not resist at all.
Death.
Am I going to die? Supreme Lan Yu roared in shock, and so did the others. The 7 of them finally experienced the might of King Gaiyu. The red light was nearing, and it looked like the 7 upper emptiness realm cultivators were about to fall here. Ha ha ha, great revelation, holy ground? King Guai revealed a disdainful smile. Just as King Guai was feeling smug, the sky suddenly distorted.
Buzz.
High up in the sky, the space was extremely distorted. The black cloud that was about to deliver the final judgment swayed in an instant.
Boom.
As the black cloud swayed, the black light also weakened instantly. The 7 upper emptiness stage elites were all overjoyed. They took this opportunity to escape.
Boom.
The 7 red sabers slashed into the ground, and 7 bottomless holes instantly appeared on the ground. The 7 upper emptiness stage elites narrowly escaped the fatal crisis, but each of them still had lingering fears. Chapter 880. At the same time, the 7 of them looked at the sky. Rumble. The dark clouds in the sky distorted intensely. King Gai looked up at the sky.
Bam.
The dark clouds suddenly exploded, stirring up a huge storm. Where the dark clouds were, the space distorted continuously. Gradually, a 10,000 feet golden figure appeared. The towering golden shadow floated in the air, exuding a supreme aura. One could vaguely see the figure's face. Holy Lord, Mohina Dojin said respectfully. Greetings, Holy Lord. The 7 upper void realm cultivators bowed respectfully. Jing Ming's figure appeared. His face was cold as he stared at King Gai. King Gai waved his scepter, and a breeze blew past, causing his black robe to flutter. The great revelation, Holy Lord. The great nightmare, Holy Lord. The 2 great heroes of the world looked at each other. King Gai. Jing Ming shouted coldly. With a shout, the void trembled. King Gai was also extremely arrogant. Jing Ming, you are the most powerful person in this world? You were in the southern divine continent, and I didn't want to bother with you. How dare you come to the east divine continent? Do you know where this is? How dare you? Jing Ming said coldly. Dare? Ha ha ha, I have never been afraid of anyone, and I don't know what courage is. Jing Ming, since you are the most powerful person in the world, accept my challenge. Then accept my challenge. I want to see if the number 1 person under the heavens is just an undeserved reputation. King of Gaia shouted with his scepter in hand. You are overestimating yourself. Jing Ming said coldly. You are the one who is overestimating yourself. King Gai's eyes turned cold. Since you came to my great revelation to be so presumptuous, you should be prepared to bear the consequences. You can't blame others for injuring my great revelation, Tao Lord. Jing Ming said coldly. As he spoke, Jing Ming suddenly reached out with his right palm. It descended from the sky and pressed down on King Gai. Rumble. As his right palm pressed down, the space under his palm seemed to fold, producing a series of explosions. The 7 upper void realm cultivators quickly fled. When King Gai saw the huge palm pressing down on him, his face darkened. He waved his scepter towards the sky.
Boom.
Another dark cloud appeared in the sky, but it was destroyed by Jing Ming's palm. How could this be? King of Gai's expression changed. With a wave of the scepter in his hand, the scepter suddenly expanded to 1,000 feet in size and smashed towards Jing Ting's right palm.
Boom.
The palm and staff collided. The scepter finally stopped Jing Ming's hand. King of Gai sighed to himself. It finally stopped. How could a Zhao have such a strong monster? Ka 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 ka. A large number of cracks appeared on the scepter. No, no. King of Gaia exclaimed.
Boom.
The scepter that King Guai was so proud of exploded with a loud bang. It shattered into pieces and scattered in all directions.
No.
King of Gaia exclaimed. Rumble. Jing Ming's palm continued to press down, pressing down harder and harder. The immense pressure seemed to have sealed off the escape route of King of Gai and the others. The Snake Emperor and the others could not escape even if they wanted to. All of them looked at the huge palm descending from the sky in horror.
Pooh.
Under this pressure, the Snake Emperor spat out another mouthful of blood. The giant palm pressed down harder and harder, and the other 10 subordinates of King Guai also fell to the ground. King of Gaia wanted to resist, but under this heavenly might, he could not resist at all. It was incomparably vast.
No.
King of Gaia exclaimed as he pounced towards the Snake Emperor.
Boom.
The giant palm finally pressed down on the ground. King of Gaia and the others were all trapped in the palm.
Boom.
With a loud bang, the entire Heaven Calamity mountain range sunk under Jing Ming's palm. As the ground sank, the tall mountain that Yan Chuan was standing on also collapsed. Yan Chuan, Bai Ditian, and Jin Diyu flew up into the sky and looked at the sunken ground in shock. Billowing smoke and dust rose into the sky. When the smoke and dust settled, Jing Ming's giant palm had also disappeared. At this moment, the ground had sunk more than 3,000 feet. Where King of Gaia stood, the ground was crushed like a thick rock. King of Gaia's 10 subordinates were all crushed into powder. On that piece of ground, there was only a sudden black. The black slowly crawled up. It was King of Gaia, who stood up in a sorry state. His clothes were torn, revealing his white bones. Below King of Gaia was the Snake Emperor. The Snake Emperor's face was extremely pale and weak. Other than the Snake Emperor, King of Gaia's entire army had been wiped out. King of Gaia stood up and looked at the giant phantom in the sky with shock. Jing Ming? The number 1 person in the world? The number 1 person in the world that he wanted to challenge? The other party was just a projection, and he could not resist at all. Did he still want to challenge him? King of Gaia was extremely bitter. Facing Jing Ming, King of Gaia bowed slightly. Great Revelation's Sacred Lord, King of Gaia has offended you. In the phantom, Jing Ming looked coldly at King of Gaia. I have not appeared for many years. Do you think I don't exist? Jing Ming shouted coldly. With that, a large number of figures flew out from the 4 directions forest. One by one, the figures soared into the sky and stood on the peaks of the mountains. Disciples of the Archaean Sacred Grounds greet the Great Revelation's Sacred Lord. Julu Academy disciples greet the Great Revelation's Sacred Lord. Celestial Arcanum Sect disciples greet the Great Revelation's Sacred Lord. Congealed Jade Palace disciples greet the Great Revelation's Sacred Lord. Countless cultivators reported their names one after another, and then they bowed respectfully to Jing Ming. Although Jing Ming's plan had never been announced to the world, the fact that the 5 sect masters of the 5 great vassal sects had personally come to the Great Revelation's Sacred Ground naturally revealed some unusual information. Countless experts in the world had already gathered at the Great Revelation's Sacred Ground. In the previous battles, the experts of the various sects had never revealed themselves. Because of that, countless experts had witnessed this shocking palm strike. Since Jing Ming had spoken, who would dare to hide? In an instant, about 30 experts spoke and bowed to Jing Ming. Jing Ming's phantom looked around with a cold expression. In the Great Revelation's Sacred Ground, if you are a dragon, coil up for me. If you are a tiger, lie down for me. As long as I am here, you will always be the second in the world. Jing Ming said coldly. As long as I am here, you will always be the second in the world? King of Gaia's face was bitter. How could he fight for the number 1 in the world now? Just a mere projection had suppressed him to the point that he could not resist. What could he use to fight with Jing Ming? Yes. Countless experts responded at the same time. With a flick of his sleeve, Jing Ming turned his head away. At the same time, the phantom slowly dissipated, as if he had never been there, leaving behind a group of shocked experts who were reminiscing about Jing Ming's strength. A peerless expert, the number 1 in the world. With such strength, who could contend against him? Challenging the number 1 in the world? The experts of the various sects all stopped the ripples in their hearts. Jing Ming left, but his final words lingered in everyone's ears for a long time. It was as if he had suppressed everyone in the world to the point that they could not breathe. As long as I am here, You will always be the second in the world. Chapter 881. As long as I'm here, you'll always be second in the world. Jing Ming left, but these words reverberated in the minds of the powerhouses for a long time. This wasn't arrogance. After that palm strike, who would dare to say that Jing Ming was arrogant? King of Gai had suppressed the 7 upper emptiness realm experts. But even such a peerless figure couldn't withstand a single strike from Jing Ming. No, that was just a projection of Jing Ming. At this moment, Yan Chuan finally understood why Jing Ming killed Kong Xianshui in the Divine Sect's sacred grounds from 100 million miles away. She even killed one of the great palace masters. None of the experts in the Divine Sect's sacred grounds dared to refute, because she was #1 in the world. No matter if you were a sacred ground or not, if you dared to make an enemy out of her, she could destroy you all by herself. King of Gai stood up with difficulty and watched as Jing Ming disappeared. His heart was cold. He thought that after entering the mortal realm from the immortal realm, he would be invincible. But now, was it his turn to be invincible? Jing Ming? How could this world be more terrifying than the immortal realm? Did he come to the wrong place? Your Majesty, let's retreat first. Snake Emperor said bitterly. King of Gai nodded, pulled Snake Emperor up and flew into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. King of Gai left. Maori Yu, Supreme Lan Yu, and the other upper emptiness realm experts were also in shock. The 7 of them only knew that Jing Ming was strong, but they never knew her limits. Even the 7 of them were proud and complacent. The Sacred Master was an upper emptiness realm expert, and they were also upper emptiness realm experts. Even if they couldn't beat the Sacred Master, they shouldn't be too far apart, right? But now, wasn't it too far apart? Especially Mohina Dojin, thinking back to 2 years ago when he schemed against Mo Yushi, causing Jing Ming to be unhappy. He broke out in cold sweat. Let's go back.
Supreme Lan Yu said.
Everyone nodded. At this moment, the 7 of them naturally couldn't stay here any longer. Although Jing Ming proved the strength of the great sacred grounds, the 7 of them had embarrassed themselves. 7 upper emptiness realm experts were almost killed. The 7 of them soared into the sky and quickly flew towards the north. Before flying away, Mohina Dojin and Dao Lord Yu took another deep look at Yan Chuan, and their eyes flashed with indignation. At this moment, the experts of the various sects also recovered from the shock. Each of them had a lingering fear in their hearts. They looked at each other and then quickly flew in all directions. The experts of the various sects had to send the news back to their sects as soon as possible. The might of the most powerful person in the world was too great. Bai Ditian took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "What a powerful Jingming. Just like the Blade Demon back then, he is also extremely domineering." Blade Demon? The strongest person in the world 10,000 years ago? Yan Chuan asked in a deep voice. That's right. Back then, the Saber Demon dominated the world for the same reason. I am the only one in the world. Bai Ditian nodded. Your Majesty, the Heaven Calamity Mountain Range has sunk 3,000 feet. Will Meng Wenruo and Su Sanyang? Jin Deyu frowned and said. Jing Ming's palm did not press on the Heaven Calamity Acupoint. Mr. Monroe's Heaven Calamity Acupoint has sunk 3,000 feet, not 3,000 feet. He should be fine. Moreover, he is only a shell now. It's fine. Bai Ditian, I'll have to trouble you and Qing Long to continue protecting them for a while. Jin Deyu, and I will go out for a few days. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Bai Ditian nodded. Yan Chuan quickly flew into the sky with Jin Deyu. Your Majesty, where are we going? Jin Deyu asked curiously. Follow me to purify all the zombies. You will protect me. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Chapter 882.
Yes.
Jin Deyu nodded. Although King Gai did not die under Jing Ting's palm strike, Yan Chuan was certain that King Gai must have been severely injured. How could he have the time to care about the zombies now? He could only let Yan Chuan take advantage of the situation. It was not that Yan Chuan was copying the wisdom of others, but Yan Chuan had to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. With the appearance of these powerful people, Yan Chuan's desire to become stronger became more and more urgent. Facing the Snake Emperor, Yan Chuan could still remain calm. Against King Gai, Yan Chuan's current cultivation base was far inferior. What more, the strongest person in the world, Jing Ting. The moment Jing Ting appeared, all the sects in the world were subdued. Right now, strength was the most important guarantee. Lan Yu's sect. When Yan Chuan arrived at Lan Yu's sect, there were piles of zombies all around. Roar.
Ah.
Woo. The zombies wandered aimlessly in all directions. God's sword formation. Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold as the god's sword in his hand flew out quickly.
Bang.
As soon as the formation appeared, a white light immediately enveloped the surroundings. Ah. Roar. Countless zombies were purified, and their souls were released from their bodies. All of them bowed respectfully to Yan Chuan. These souls did not know that a part of their vitality had been taken away by Yan Chuan. The more zombies there were, the more Yan Chuan's birth chart increased. Without much time to increase his cultivation, Yan Chuan tried his best to absorb as much birth chart power as possible. Rumble. After 3 whole days, all the zombies in Lan Yu's sect were finally purified. With a flip of his hand, a large amount of soil flew into the sky. Yan Chuan buried the countless corpses. Let's go to the next cities, Yan Chuan said. Yes. A ruler and a vassal quickly flew to the surrounding cities. Zombies invaded all the major cities. Usually, a zombie's corpse poison could infect an entire city. After spending 2 months, Yan Chuan went to 8 cities and purified all the zombies that had gathered. At the same time, Yan Chuan's birth chart power skyrocketed. After returning to the Heaven Tribulation Mountain range, Yan Chuan quickly went into seclusion. Jin Diyu had plundered a large number of spirit stones from the 8 major cities, which were all used by Yan Chuan to improve his cultivation. 4th level lower void stage. 5th level lower void stage. 6th level lower void stage. 7th level lower void stage. 8th level of the lower void stage. 9th level lower void stage. The 10th level of the lower void stage. During this month of time, Yan Chuan's cultivation shot up and arrived at the 10th level of the lower void stage in the blink of an eye. As for the spirit stones, he had used up as much as a mountain. However, it was all worth it. He only needed an opportunity to reach the middle emptiness realm. With regards to Yan Chuan's sudden increase in cultivation, Jin Diyu was dumbfounded. However, Bai Ditian did not think much of it. Congratulations, Your Majesty, Jin Diyu said in a daze. However, Yan Chuan was not complacent. He had not recovered his cultivation from his previous life, so there was nothing to be proud of. It's been more than 2 years. It's almost time. Let's go and wake Mr. Monroe up, Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Yes. Jin Diyu's eyes lit up. Yan Chuan did not hide the fact that he had dreamt of the Heaven's secret art from Jin Diyu. This was because Yan Chuan might bring all his officials to dreamt of the Heaven's secret art in the future. However, in Jin Diyu's opinion, this was Yan Chuan's extreme trust in him. At the same time, Jin Diyu was also curious about the Heaven's secret art. In the Heaven Tribulation Meridian, Yan Chuan, Jin Diyu, and Bai Ditian looked at the huge coffin. Just like 2 years ago, Mr. Monroe and Su Sanyang were still lying in the coffin. Yan Chuan grabbed the black banner at the side. He waved the black banner at the coffin. Yan Chuan shouted loudly, "Soul, return." Chapter 883. Soul, come back. Following Yan Chuan's loud shout, the black banner in his hand began to flutter without any wind, making rustling sounds in his heavenly tribulation acupoint. In the heaven's calamity meridian, black fog rose up in an instant. The black fog spun violently, forming a suction force that sucked in things from the outside world.
Who?
Suddenly, a green light rushed in. Yen Chuan could clearly see that it was Meng Wenruo's soul. It was sucked in by the black fog and instantly rushed into Meng Wenruo's body.
Who?
Another Meng Wenruo's soul flew over and entered the body. Huff, huff, huff. Surrounded by the black fog, one soul after another rushed into the heavenly calamity acupoint and into the bodies of Su Sanyang and Meng Wenruo. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of souls returned to their bodies.
Boom.
The black fog dispersed. The black fog dispersed. Yen Chuan, Jin Dayu, and Bai Ditian stared at the two people in the coffin. Meng Wenruo was still holding Su Sanyang's hand. After waiting for half an hour, Meng Wenruo finally raised her eyebrows slightly. Yen Chuan removed the black jade talisman from Meng Wenruo's forehead.
Who?
Meng Wenruo and Su Sanyang opened their eyes almost at the same time. Since they had just woken up, the two of them were in a daze. Gradually, they regained consciousness and stood up. Meng Wenruo looked at Su Sanyang tenderly. Su Sanyang looked at Meng Wenruo in a daze. 2 lines of tears fell from the corners of her eyes. Slap. Su Sanyang slapped Meng Wenruo's face. Meng Wenruo, you're despicable. Su Sanyang cried. Meng Wenruo's expression changed. If it was in the past, she would definitely not refute it. But at this moment, Meng Wenruo gritted her teeth and said, "No. Third madam, you know better than anyone that if Daoist Lord Yu hadn't forcefully captured you all those years ago, you would already be my wife." You. Su Sanyang cried as she looked at Meng Wenruo. You know what? What did my father say before he died? He said he was sorry? He didn't forget what happened back then. He felt guilty because he couldn't preside over our wedding. I will pamper you no matter what decision you make. However, father has already passed away. He couldn't let go even before he passed away. As a child, I was unfilial when I was alive. When I made this decision, it was also very difficult for me. I didn't want to destroy your happiness, but father's final wish gave me the courage. Even if I have to die 10,000 times, I will not hesitate. Now that things have come to this, if you can't let it go, then just kill me. Everything will just be a dream. I will not fight back. Meng Wenruo closed her eyes. Su Sanyang covered her nose and looked at Meng Wenruo with red eyes. Yen Chuan, Jin Dayu, and Bai Ditian had already left the Heaven Tribulation acupoint. Your Majesty, it's a success, Jin Dayu said excitedly, dreaming of the secrets of heaven. So it's true. Yen Chuan also muttered to himself. If the dream of heavenly secrets was real, then the other universe in the palm was also real? Everyone waited outside the cave for an hour. Su Sanyang suddenly rushed out of the cave and flew toward the south. At this time, Wenruo slowly came out of the cave. Her eyes were slightly red. Wenruo, how did it go? Yen Chuan asked. Su Sanyang took my father's coffin and went to the Jilu Academy. She didn't want to go with me. It seems that I really hurt her too much. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Back to the Jilu Academy? Not back to the Dezhou Holy Ground? Yen Chuan's eyes lit up. Yes. Wenruo smiled bitterly. Jin Dayu, go and protect Su Sanyang. Don't let anything happen to her. Protect her secretly and escort her back to the Jilu Academy, Yen Chuan ordered. Chapter 884. Yes, Your Majesty. Jin Dayu chased after him. Thank you, Your Majesty, Mr. Monroe said respectfully. Wenruo, what have you experienced in the past 2 years? Yen Chuan asked in a deep voice. Reporting to Your Majesty, dreaming of the mysteries of heaven is truly miraculous. Sanyang and I, each divided into 100 parts and experienced 100 lives for more than 2 years. This is equivalent to living together for more than 200 years. Meng Wenruo said solemnly. Oh, how's your cultivation base? Yen Chuan asked solemnly. My cultivation base hasn't changed, but I feel that my soul has become stronger. Perhaps even the ethereal power of my birth chart has become stronger. It's as if I can break through as long as I have enough primal chi of heaven and earth. Meng Wenrua said in surprise. Really? Good. Yan Chuan's eyes lit up. Meng Wenrua, hear the decree. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty. Meng Wenrua said respectfully. From today onward, I appoint Meng Wenrua as the commander of the 4th Army of the Great Jin Dynasty. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Thank you, Your Majesty. Meng Wenrua said respectfully. Wenrua, you should go after Su Sanyang now. I know that this is your obsession. You were helpless in the past, but now you have a chance to redeem yourself. I hope you cherish it. Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Yes, Your Majesty. Meng Wenrua said respectfully. Jin Diyu will follow you for the time being. He has already ascended to the Void Realm and can protect you for the time being. Quickly go after Su Sanyang. Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Thank you, Your Majesty. Meng Wenrua said emotionally. Meng Wenrua took a step forward and flew into the sky. He quickly chased after her. After watching Meng Wenrua leave, Bai Ditian fell into deep thought. The dream of heavenly secrets was too strange. Bai Ditian, how's your investigation going? Yan Chuan looked at Bai Ditian curiously. Just as you think, Jingsheng's every word and action can affect the entire world. Especially when Jingsheng killed Kong Xianxue and took the great world-suppressing steel and invaded the central divine continent. All the sensitive cultivators in the world sensed that something was amiss. Although they came later than us, many sects came and hid in the dark, Bai Ditian said in a low voice. And Bai Ditian sucked in a deep breath and said, King Gaian and the Snake Emperor are severely injured. Right now, they are being pursued by the powerful practitioners of the various sects. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said, King Gaio can be considered a powerful monarch. Unfortunately, his luck was not good, and he met Jing Ming. Do we still need to keep an eye on him? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Yes, they have the zombie origin poison in their hands. Back then, a portion of the origin poison created 30 million zombies. At the same time, it also caused my cultivation base to soar. Now that they are being hunted down by the various sects, we won't make a difference. Let's do our best to snatch the origin poison, Yan Chuan said with certainty. Bai Ditian nodded. I'll have to trouble you with this matters. Yan Chuan said solemnly. It's no problem. Helping you is helping me. Once I become strong, I will be able to find my son, Bai Tu Shi, faster. Bai Ditian said with a smile. Bai Tu Shi? Haha, you don't have to worry about him. He is a peerless killing god. He will take care of himself. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Bai Ditian nodded. Bai Ditian stepped into the sky and flew off in search of King Gaian. Yan Chuan sucked in a deep breath and looked up at the sky. As long as I am around, you will always be the second most powerful person in the world. Jing Ming's words were still fresh in the minds of the various sects, and so was Yan Chuan. Is this what it means to be the most powerful person in the world? Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. Compared to me, you only have more time. I have the heavenly secret dreamer poison. I will definitely catch up to you in no time. In the future, I will personally experience what it means to be the most powerful person in the world. Yan Chuan said with a serious look in his eyes. Chapter 885. Suppressing his desire to battle, Yan Chuan stepped out of the crater that Jing Ting had created. After flying out of the crater, he met up with Qing Long suddenly. A few streaks of light flew towards them. Hades Emperor, the Holy Lady is here. No, the Tao Lord is here. Qing Long exclaimed. In the distance, Mo Yushi led by Long, Rosefinch, Xuanwu, and the 4 Tiger Tribe formidable martial artists who had followed them previously. They quickly flew towards Yan Chuan. Yushi, why are you here? Yan Chuan's expression changed. Wasn't she called over by Shangguan Wan to learn something and couldn't be with Yan Chuan? She's eyes flashed with deep emotion. I begged Lady Shangguan, and she agreed to let me come. I'll accompany you for the rest of the time. She said gently. She's expression was slightly unnatural, but Yan Chuan still nodded. Everyone retreated a distance, leaving Yan Chuan and She alone. Did something happen? Yan Chuan asked gently. No, I just missed you and came to see you. She said with a smile. However, Yan Chuan could see that She's smile was a little bitter. Yan Chuan didn't ask further. Instead, he made arrangements for Qing Long and the others. Some stayed behind, while others followed. This would allow him to contact by Ditian at any time. Yan Chuan accompanied She. She seemed to have changed into a different person. She held Yan Chuan's hand and walked around the nearest city. They walked past many shops. She looked at this elixir and then at that Dharma treasure. Does this hairpin look good? She asked. Yes. Yan Chuan nodded and tossed a spirit stone to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper thanked him and bought the hairpin. Just like that, Yan Chuan accompanied She to shop for the whole day. That night, they stayed at a manor that Qing Long had already prepared. Yan Chuan and She also stayed there. In a large hall, Yan Chuan was accompanying She. She was happily counting the high-grade goods she had bought today. I bought a lot today. She smiled. Yan Chuan accompanied him quietly. As she watched, she suddenly felt a lump in her throat and her eyes reddened. Yushi, what's wrong? Yan Chuan gently grabbed She's arm. Looking at Yan Chuan, She hugged Yan Chuan and suddenly started sobbing. Seeing She's abnormal behavior, Yan Chuan frowned but still hugged She gently. I'm here. It's okay. What happened? Yan Chuan asked gently. There are still 5 months. In 5 months, on the 9th day of the 9th month, my mother will take the heaven seal. She said sadly. The 9th day of the 9th month? Yan Chuan's expression changed. As I told you last time, this world was originally part of the Immortal realm. It was sealed by Goddess Jichen with a Dao seal. This time, my mother reincarnated into this world in order to obtain Goddess Jichen's Dao seal. She nodded. You said that Jingming was from the Immortal realm and reincarnated into this world? Yan Chuan asked in a low voice. Miss Shangguan said that no one from the Immortal realm could take Goddess Jichen's Dao seal. Even if they broke into this world, it would be useless. Only the native creatures of this world can take it. That's why my mother reincarnated into this world. My mother already had a foundation in the Immortal realm. Shangguan Wan and Yuan Tiangang, who just came, are all my mother's subjects. She said, sniffling. Jingming? What's her name in the Immortal realm? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Wu Zhao. Chapter 886. Wu Jiang. Yan Chuan frowned in deep thought. Yan Chuan did not have this name in his mind. In his previous life, his foundation was only in the Celestial Empire. His understanding of the world was limited. Since he had never heard of it, Wu Jiang's foundation must be in the Immortal realm, which was quite far from here. She hugged Yan Chuan tightly. Her body trembled slightly. Yan Chuan stroked She's long hair and said softly, Yushi, why are you sad? She suddenly raised her head and looked at Yan Chuan. Her eyes flashed with determination. Kiss Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan stared. He did not expect She to be so bold. At the same time, Yan Chuan also guessed that She's mood was extremely bad right now. When it came to relationships, Yan Chuan wasn't very good at it. However, as long as it was a relationship that Yan Chuan approved of, Yan Chuan would protect it. It was just like in his previous life, when there was only one empress, Zhenrou. As an emperor, Yan Chuan could be considered an extremely weird existence. In this life, although he did not go around looking for trouble, but when feelings came, Yan Chuan did not reject them. Yan Chuan had already tacitly accepted Mo Yuxi in his heart. Moreover, Mo Yuxi also had deep feelings for him. Yan Chuan would not be pretentious. He hugged Mo Yuxi even tighter. The two of them blended together. A night of rain mixed together. A night of spring cries filled the garden. A group of guards had already retreated from the villa, guarding the four corners of the villa. The two of them were left alone to enjoy the fruits of love that they had gained over many years. The next morning, Yan Chuan was lying on the bed with Mo Yuxi curled up beside him. Yan Chuan was lying on the bed. The countless folds on the bedsheet and the eye-catching pool of bright red told everything that had happened last night. Gently caressing Mo Yuxi's hair, Mo Yuxi unconsciously curled up. There were traces of tears at the corners of her eyes, but the corners of her mouth were slightly curved. With a faint smile, Yan Chuan waited patiently. An hour later, Mo Yuxi's eyelashes fluttered. His eyes slowly opened. The moment he opened his eyes, he seemed to have sensed something and immediately closed them again. "All right, are you awake?" Yan Chuan asked gently. Mo Yuxi replied with a red face. Although she was extremely shy, at this moment, Mo Yuxi hugged her even tighter. "Can you tell me now? What happened last night?" Yan Chuan asked curiously. "No, I'm fine now." Mo Yuxi shook her head. "You're fine? But I'm even more interested to know," Yan Chuan said curiously. The corners of Mo Yuxi's mouth curled up. Looking at Yan Chuan, a trace of gentleness flashed across her eyes, followed by a trace of mockery. "All right, if you want to know, I'll tell you." Mo Yuxi teased. "Oh, do you still remember the time when Shangguan Wan said in front of you that my father was mother's gigolo?" Mo Yuxi smiled. "Don't you want me to comfort you?" Yan Chuan's expression changed. "Of course, that's not all. I only found out about it from Shangguan Wan later. You almost caught the Holy Master's eye and almost became his concubine." Mo Yuxi teased. Yan Chuan's face darkened. "Nyang nyang?" No matter how good Yan Chuan's self-control was, he almost cursed it out loud. "Shangguan Wan, is my mother's confidant. Many things are handled by Shangguan Wan. Last time, I said it in front of you, so that you would know." Mo Yuxi teased. "Yan Chuan, what do you think?" Mo Yuxi teased. "What do I think? I, Yan Chuan, am a man. How can I be humiliated like this? Even if I die, I won't." Yan Chuan was speechless. Chapter 887. Mo Yuxi leaned her face against Yan Chuan's chest and said, "You don't have to worry now. You and I are husband and wife, and the Holy Lord has given up on this idea." Yan Chuan's expression was still unfriendly. Clearly, he was in a bad mood because of Jingming's attitude. "Her Highness? What a joke." Yan Chuan's expression turned cold. "I have wronged Miss Shangguan in the past. Actually, she's been taking good care of me all these years. This time, she asked me to come here and give up the idea of the Holy Lord. Actually, she did it on purpose." Yan Chuan caressed Mo Yuxi's body and nodded. "If I have the chance in the future, I will help you repay her." Mo Yuxi nodded. "But why would Jingming like me?" Yan Chuan asked solemnly. "Miss Shangguan said that you look like a person." Mo Yuxi recalled. "Like a person?" Yan Chuan asked curiously. "To be precise, it should be a statue. Miss Shangguan said that in her hometown my mother led a few people and opened a tomb. In the tomb, there were 3,000 terracotta soldiers and a heavenly inscription. My mother obtained the heavenly inscription and ushered in the path of immortal cultivation. The head of the terracotta soldiers and horses looked very similar to you, so..." Mo Yuxi recalled. "Very similar? There are too many people in the world who look alike. Maybe she saw wrongly. Your mother opened a tomb and then embarked on the path of immortal cultivation. Was that an immortal's tomb?" Yan Chuan asked curiously. "I'm not sure. Miss Shangguan said that the tomb was called the first emperor's tomb. I don't know anything else." Mo Yuxi shook her head. "Yes, immortal cultivation requires luck. It is also the opportunity to embark on the path of immortal cultivation. Everyone has their own immortal fate. I have also had immortal fate. However, immortal fate is only the foundation. It does not have much to do with the future. It only helps you embark on the path of immortal cultivation. After this battle, I may have to leave with my mother. Mou, she took a deep breath.
Leave?
It's fine if your mother failed, but if she succeeded, why do you want to leave? Isn't it good to stay in Dijon? Yan Chuan asked gently. Mou, she looked at Yan Chuan and shook her head. I'll only be a burden to you. Mou, she. How can that be? Yan Chuan also shook his head. Mou, she shook her head. No, in the past there would be no burden. But now there is. Because I'm Jingming's, no, Wu Jiong's daughter, and I've been acknowledged by Wu Jiong. Miss Shengguan said that my mother founded an empire and is extremely powerful. However, she has many enemies. If I stay, my mother's enemies will come for you. Neither of us will be safe. Don't worry. I'll protect you, Yan Chuan said firmly. I'll leave with my mother. I'll think of a way to strengthen myself. When the time comes, when both of us are strong, I'll come for you. She will never change her mind about you in this life. This time, let me make the decision, all right? Mou, she looked at Yan Chuan earnestly. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan hugged Mou, she tightly. He was touched. Moreover, my mother wants to take me away this time. No one can stop her. Mou, she said weakly. Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed slightly. He took a deep breath and said, one day, I'll hold up the sky for you. I'll protect you, and I'll protect you as you wish. Yes. Mou, she's eyes flashed with deep love. From today onwards, Mou, she is the Empress of Dijon. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Dijon dynasty. Above the Sea of Providence.
Boom.
The Sea of Providence churned violently. Another person? Lu Gang looked at the churning Sea of Providence in the sky. Yesterday, it should be the army commander. If I'm not wrong, it should be Mr. Monroe. Yifeng laughed. What about today? It should be the Empress, right? Lu Gang laughed. The Emperor is now in the Dazhao sacred ground. The Empress is most likely Mou, she, the Saintess. Yifeng nodded. In the palace of Dijon. Zizi looked at the sky and frowned slightly. Soon, she seemed to have thought of something. The frown disappeared, and she smiled mysteriously. Meow, Sister Zizi, what's wrong? Meow jumped over. Nothing. Zizi shook her head. Dijon dynasty, Yan Ho's residence. Yan Qi looked up at the sky. A black-robed figure stood behind Yan Ho. Who is it? The black-robed figure asked. It should be another empress. Yan Qi said in a low voice. Empress? Haha, Yan Chuan is really thoughtful. The black-robed figure sneered.
Yes.
Yan Qiyu nodded. Yan Qiyu, don't worry. With our help, Dijon dynasty will definitely be yours. The black-robed figure said confidently. Thank you very much. Yan Qiyu smiled. The black-robed figure nodded and then walked away. Looking at the back of the black-robed figure, Yan Qiyu had a complicated expression. It was confirmed that Mou, she was going to leave. Yan Chuan also spent more time with Mou, she. He accompanied Mou, she to go shopping and saw some strange sights. The relationship between the two grew deeper. Dazhao's sacred ground, beside the celestial phenomenon pond. Shengguan Wan looked at the celestial phenomenon pond. Yan Chuan and Mou, she were leaning against each other and fishing in the river. Looking at the scene, Shengguan Wan smiled. She waved her hand, and the scene of the celestial phenomenon pond disappeared. She turned and walked out of the hall. Outside the hall, Yuan Tiangang was in white. He pinched his fingers and looked up at the sky as if he was calculating something. Seeing Shengguan Wan coming out of the hall, Yuan Tiangang smiled and said, Lord Shengguan, you seem to be taking care of Princess Yuxi? I watched Princess Yuxi grow up. She is also the daughter of the Holy Lord. It's nothing for me to dote on her more.
Lord Yuan.
You have been here for several months. Have you finished calculating? Shangguan Wan asked curiously. Take the yin and leave the yang. We only need to wait for the 9th day of the 9th month. Yuan Tiangang said solemnly. Take the yin and leave the yang? Yes, the Holy Lord is a man of great talent. He will definitely succeed in taking the Tao seal. The day of the Holy Lord becoming the Heavenly Emperor is just around the corner. Yuan Tiangang took a deep breath and said, Yes, the first female Heavenly Emperor in history. Let's go and see the Holy Lord. Shangguan Wan nodded. Yes. The fish floated, and a big fish was pulled out of the river by Yan Chuan. I'll do it. She immediately stood up and took the big fish excitedly. With the two skills, catching fish was easy. It was just that fishing had a more peaceful atmosphere. Yan Chuan smiled. Whoosh! A white figure flew over. It was Bai Ditian. Found it? Yan Chuan asked curiously. The King of Gaio and the Snake Emperor are trapped. Bai Ditian took a deep breath and said, Oh. Yan Chuan's eyes lit up. Chapter 888. Nyoibo Studio, King Gaio and Snake Emperor are trapped. Bai Ditian took a deep breath and said, Oh. Yan Chuan's eyes lit up. Jing Ming's attack was indeed powerful. Although King Gaio did not die, he was severely injured. His strength has decreased by more than half. He is currently trapped in Baigu Mountain by the Divine Sect Sacred Ground, 1,000 Buddhist Sacred Ground, and dozens of other middle sects. Bai Ditian said with certainty. 3 great sacred grounds in the world. Great Zhao, Divine Sect, 1,000 Buddha? Even the 1,000 Buddha Sacred Ground in the West has sent people here? Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. That's right. Perhaps Emperor Mo has also come to the east. Bai Ditian nodded. Emperor Mo? Kong Mo was the real culprit who had forced Yan Chuan's parents to their deaths. Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Turning his head, Yan Chuan looked at Mo Yushi and said, Yushi, wait for me here. I'll be back as soon as possible. I'll go with you. Mo Yushi immediately shouted. Together? Yan Chuan was slightly worried. It's the last few months. I don't want to be separated from you. Mo Yushi nodded stubbornly. Seeing Mo Yushi's insistence, Yan Chuan finally nodded.
All right.
He gave instructions to Qing Long and the rest. Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi, and Bai Ditian quickly flew towards the southwest. Flying in the air. Baigu Mountain. Is there anything special about that place? Yan Chuan asked as he flew. I know about that. Mo Yushi's expression suddenly changed.
Oh.
Mo Yushi explained, Feng Shui Southern Sect and Feng Shui Northern Sect once fought a fierce battle there. Legend has it that during that battle, the 2 Feng Shui sects deployed countless soldiers from the netherworld. In the end, both sides suffered heavy losses. Since then, the Southern Sect and the Northern Sect have drawn a clear line between themselves. One south, one north, and the other south, and no one has dared to invade their territory. Although the Southern Sect and the Northern Sect have left, countless skeletons were left on the battlefield. At the same time, Yin energy filled the air, and evil energy wreaked havoc. Whitebone Mountain. The raging Yin Qi is just what the King of Gaia wants. Yan Chuan nodded. The 3 of them flew for 2 days.
Soon.
We will be there in 10 more hours. Bai Ditian said after taking a deep breath. Wait. Yan Chuan's expression froze. This was because Yan Chuan saw a mountain range in the distance that was emitting golden light. Endless Sanskrit chants soared into the sky. Sanskrit? Buddhist light? Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. It should be the people from the 1,000 Buddha Sacred Ground, Bai Ditian said in a low voice. Let's go and take a look. Yan Chuan immediately shouted. The 3 of them quickly flew towards the valley and arrived in front of it in the blink of an eye. In front of them was a mountain peak, where 3 monks in Kasaya stood. In the valley, there were many circles of light that looked like compasses. They were constantly squeezing the brightest yellow spot in the center. In each circle, there were many monks emitting golden light. There were more than 500 of them. Each of them was holding different Dharma treasures and chanting Sanskrit. They formed a large array that suppressed a white-robed figure in the center. The Empress? "MOU," she exclaimed in surprise. In the center, trapped by the large array, was the daughter of the saber demon, the Empress. The Empress held a long saber in her hand. Her eyes were cold, but the yellow light around her was too bright. It was as if the surrounding space had been frozen. The Empress, who was in the yellow light, could not move at all. Ka ka ka. The Empress kept twisting in her hand, but she was still unable to move the frozen space around her. On the mountain peak beside them, there were 3 monks in kasayas. Yan Chuan actually knew the leader. It was the wise Bodhisattva who had invaded Beijing in the past. Unfortunately, he was defeated by Yan Chuan and was later rescued by Dao Lord Yu. Chapter 889. The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva smiled and said, "The daughter of the Blade Demon?
Haha, I didn't expect that.
If Master didn't recognize you, who would know that you are the daughter of the strongest person in the world 10,000 years ago? Since you are still alive, the Blade Demon must have passed down his legacy to you. Hand it over. This is the 500 Arhat formation. You can't struggle. You still want to resist?" The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva sneered. At the center of the 500 Arhat formation, the Emperor's eyes were cold as he looked at the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva with hatred. "Roar!" The Emperor roared, but he wasn't willing to submit. The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva's face darkened as his eyes turned colder. My master has gone to the Whitebone Mountain. When he returns, let's see how long you can last. Who is your master? Suddenly, a shout came from behind the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva. The 3 monks in kasayas immediately turned their heads. "Yan Chuan, it's you." The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva's face changed. Following which, the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva's panicked expression was replaced by excitement. "Ha ha ha ha, Yan Chuan, this isn't your great Jin Empire. You can't use the Golden Dragon's providence. I didn't look for you, but you sent yourself to me?" The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva laughed. As he spoke, the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva pounced towards Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan looked on coldly as his expression changed slightly. Bai Ditian, who was at the side, made his move.
Pa!
A white light flashed, and Bai Ditian returned to his original position as if he hadn't moved at all. As for the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva, he smashed into the ground like a stone.
Boom!
A huge pit appeared on the ground. The other 2 monks in kasayas. The 500 Arhats. The Emperor. The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva crawled out of the pit in fear. He was in a sorry state as he looked at Yan Chuan in shock. "You how?" The 2 monks in kasayas looked as if they were facing a great enemy. The 2 monks each took out a circular artifact and looked at Yan Chuan and company warily.
Who?
The white light appeared again. Pa! The 2 monks wearing kasayas immediately smashed towards the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva at an extremely fast speed.
Boom! Boom!
The crater once again doubled in size. Bai Ditian did not stop as he struck the 500 Arhat formation with his palm. Hung! In the valley, it was as if a shockwave had been smashed out, and the surrounding mountains were instantly flattened by this huge force.
Ah! Poof!
The 500 Arhats were blasted away, and they all coughed up blood and collapsed in the ruins. After Bai Ditian finished fighting, he returned to Yan Chuan's side. However, Yan Chuan reached out and waved his hand, pulling the Emperor over.
Clang!
The Emperor was incomparably weak. He propped himself up with his broadsword and looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. "Thank you." The Emperor took a deep breath and said solemnly. Although it was Bai Ditian who had helped, the Emperor knew who he should thank. The Emperor did not have any relationship with Bai Ditian. It must have been Yan Chuan who asked him to help. Why were you trapped by this group of rascals? Also, don't you have a divine ability? Yan Chuan asked curiously. The emperor felt slightly bitter as he shook his head and said, "Unfortunately, I was ambushed by Relic Buddha."
Oh.
Yan Chuan asked curiously. "I came here this time to look for Jingming and ask about what happened back then, but on the way, I met Relic Buddha. 7,000 years ago, I met him once. At that time, he was only at the Qi state. At that time, he admired the undying sacred land very much and tried to curry favor with me. I didn't expect him to be so sinister. He said that he knew the cause of my father's death, so I believed him." "What poison were you poisoned with?" Yan Chuan asked. "Blood-crisping fruit poison," the emperor said solemnly. "Blood-crisping fruit poison? Fortunately, it's still within my detoxification range. Don't move," Yan Chuan said. As he spoke, a black vine suddenly emerged from Yan Chuan's sleeve and stretched towards the emperor's forehead. The emperor instinctively dodged, but when he saw Yan Chuan's gaze, he immediately took a deep breath and stopped moving. The black vine touched the emperor's forehead, and immediately, a stream of black gas was extracted from the emperor's forehead. The poison is really gone." The emperor's face unconsciously revealed a trace of excitement. Keeping the long vine, Yan Chuan smiled and said, "It's not easy to see your smile." After all, Yan Chuan had never seen the emperor smile before. This was the first time. Hearing Yan Chuan's words, the emperor's face turned serious, and his original smile disappeared. Seeing the emperor's serious expression in the blink of an eye, Yan Chuan smiled bitterly.
"Thank you,"
the emperor said solemnly. "All right, this is nothing. We still have things to do, so I'll leave this to you," Yan Chuan said. "All right." The emperor was a man of few words.
"Oh, right.
"Are you looking for Jingming? On the 9th day of the 9th month, there will be a huge change in the Great Zhao's sacred ground, and Jingming will definitely appear. At that time, you will be able to see her." Yan Chuan smiled. After speaking, Yan Chuan led Mo Yuxi and Bai Detian away again. Swish! The three of them flew far away in the blink of an eye. The emperor looked at Yan Chuan's back, and the corners of his mouth curled up again. It was obvious that he was in a good mood. After Yan Chuan left, the group of monks who had been severely injured by Bai Detian immediately fled towards the west. The emperor turned his head, and his face turned cold. The long saber in his hand slashed towards the west.
Boom.
A vast saber aura descended from the sky, and the 10 monks at the front were instantly sliced in half. Blood splattered everywhere, and a 100-foot-long trench was left on the ground. The saber aura swept across, and all the monks' expressions changed. The saber aura had sealed off the escape route of hundreds of monks. How could they escape now? The monks looked at the emperor in fear. The emperor turned his head and looked coldly at the great wisdom bodhisattva. "Saber demon's inheritance? How did you know?" the emperor asked coldly. I don't know. I guessed it." The great wisdom bodhisattva immediately replied in fear. Obviously, the emperor wasn't satisfied with the answer. The emperor swung his saber. Thousands of sabers rained down from the sky.
Boom.
Ah. No. Save me. With a single saber, the 500 arhats were all sliced in half.
The scene was horrifying.
The great wisdom bodhisattva and the other 2 bodhisattvas looked at the emperor in shock. Previously, when the emperor was poisoned, the 3 of them didn't think that the emperor was scary.
But now...
Killing 500 arhats with a single saber? "Speak," the emperor said coldly. "I'll fight it out with you." Zenith Buddha Palm. A bodhisattva roared.
Shing.
A green light flashed, and the struggling bodhisattva was sliced in half. Blood splattered on the faces of the great wisdom bodhisattva and the other bodhisattva. The 2 bodhisattvas shuddered. The great wisdom bodhisattva opened his mouth to speak. "No, great wisdom bodhisattva, you can't speak," the other bodhisattva shouted.
Shing.
The bodhisattva's head instantly rolled to the great wisdom bodhisattva's feet. I'll speak," the great wisdom Bodhisattva shouted. Chapter 890. Atlas Studios, White Bone Mountain. The mountain stretched for thousands of kilometers. Corpses and bones rolled, and Yin energy soared to the sky. Not only was there Yin energy, but there was also a lot of filthy energy. Most cultivators were not willing to get close to this place to cultivate. This was because the filthy energy here had polluted even the primal energy of the world. If one cultivated with the filthy energy here, their bodies would rot and fill with pustules. The various large sects all distanced themselves from White Bone Mountain. However, at this moment, tens of thousands of cultivators surrounded White Bone Mountain. Countless cultivators stared at the center of White Bone Mountain, a valley of bones. Two figures, one seated and one standing, stood in the center of the valley. The seated figure was the snake monarch. At this moment, blood leaked out of the corner of his mouth as he rapidly healed his injuries. The standing figure, however, was King Gaio. King Gaio no longer looked majestic. At this moment, most of his black robes were torn, revealing most of his white bones. Furthermore, many cracks had appeared on his white bones. The light in his eyes had dimmed significantly. King Gaio raised one hand to the sky. Surrounding the two was a huge barrier made of countless bones. Outside the barrier, golden light shone everywhere. Blue light pressed down. Beams of golden light shot in through the gaps in the bones, striking King Gaio's chest. However, King Gaio could not stop them. He allowed the golden light and blue light to strike his body. Roar! King Gaio roared sullenly at the sky.
Ka, 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 ka.
The surrounding bone barrier pushed outwards. However, many cracks appeared on the countless bones. This emperor is not resigned to this. This emperor is not resigned to this. King Gaio roared at the sky. He felt exceptionally sorrowful. After arriving in this world, King Gaio thought that he was invincible and could challenge the capital. However, a mere projection severely injured him. It was one thing to be severely injured. However, many cultivators in this world took advantage of the situation to pursue him. Although King Gaio killed many of the people pursuing him, his injuries were too severe. Many cracks appeared on his white bones. He did not have any time to rest. Now he was trapped here? Doing his best to support the bone barrier, King Gaio looked at the sky and lamented. Was he going to die here? Close to 10,000 cultivators stood on the surrounding mountains. Among them, there were dozens of Middle Void Realm experts. Previously, King Gaio could not be bothered to kill these people. However, these people now, with the formation of two Upper Void Realm cultivators, they gathered their strength, suppressing King Gaio. Roar! King Gaio felt incredibly sorrowful. The nearly 10,000 Shioja were led by two groups. It was a bald monk wearing a kasaya. His entire body radiated golden light, and he held an alms bowl in his hand. Although the bald monk had a benevolent look on his face, he didn't hold back at all. The other one wore a blue Taoist robe and held a long sword in his hand. He slashed out rays of blue light towards the bone cage. Divine Sect's Sacred Ground, Ren Shun Hall's Hall Master? 10,000 Buddhas, Holy Ground, Relic Buddha? Roar! I have no enmity with all of you. Why did you set up a formation to kill me? King Wai said sullenly. Amateus Buddha, King Gaio, Great Calamity Heavenly Dynasty? We are very clear about the power of the Great Nightmare Heaven Empire. If we let you go today, you will definitely cause us endless trouble in the future. King Gaio, who asked you to provoke Jingming? You can't blame anyone. Your destiny is already exhausted. Stop struggling. The alms bowl in Relic Buddha's hand emitted an even brighter golden light. The tens of thousands of cultivators around did not stop moving their hands. Their strength followed the golden light released by the alms bowl and gathered towards King Guai. The other Ren Shin Palace master also smiled and said, King Gaio, as long as you acknowledge me as your master, I can spare your life. Roar! Scoundrels! If I had not been injured by Jingming, I could crush all of you with one hand. Scoundrels! King Gaio roared. Chapter 891. The Run God Temple Lord's face sank. How did you know? The surrounding cultivators looked over. King of Gai. Relic Buddha. The Run God Temple Lord shook her head slightly, and a pair of huge rat ears popped out from her head. A rat's body also popped out from her mouth. Rat demon? This was the first time everyone knew that the Run God Temple Lord was actually a rat demon? Run God Temple Lord. Run rat? I always thought this name was weird. So, you are really a rat. King of Gai was speechless. The surrounding cultivators were also speechless as they looked at Run Rat. It seemed like King of Gai was right. He was indeed a rat. Run Rat stroked his beard, and his eyes narrowed as he looked at King of Gai. Acknowledge me as your master, and I can save you. Relic Buddha frowned. Run Rat, this ghost cannot be released. Relic Buddha, why not take him in instead of killing him? You and I will use our own methods. Whoever subdues King of Gai, he will belong to them. How about it? Run Rat stroked his beard and said,
Huh?
Relic Buddha frowned. Relic Buddha originally wanted to kill King of Gai, but now he wanted to subdue him?
How?
King of Gai is arrogant and unruly. It is impossible to subdue him. Relic Buddha immediately shouted. Impossible? That is because you do not have the ability to subdue him. Run Rat stroked his beard and said. Relic Buddha's expression was complicated. Are you kidding? How could he subdue him? Subduing him required him to be subdued. If he could not subdue him, what was the use of subduing him? Run Rat squinted his eyes again and looked at King of Gai. King of Gai, as long as you agree, I will save you. Agree? Ha 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 ha. King of Gai laughed loudly. Run Rat's face suddenly turned serious. King of Gai, from today onwards, you will submit to me, Run Rat. Are you willing? As soon as Ninth Rat finished speaking, the surrounding void suddenly shook, as if a contract had been formed out of thin air. However, this contract could not be seen clearly, nor could it be touched. When King of Gai heard Run Rat's words, the fire in his eyes flickered. Earth Branch Leader Token? How do you know this ability? King of Gai suddenly exclaimed. King of Gai, from today onwards, you will submit to me. Are you willing? Rat's face, once again sternly. What's going on? Even in the immortal world, it's hard to find an expert like Jing Ting. Even in the immortal world, it's hard to find such a terrifying divine ability. How is it possible that this world has it as well? King of Gai exclaimed. King Gaiyu, from today onwards, submit to me, Renshu. Are you willing? Renshu shouted again. Scoundrel, you want me, King Gai, to submit to you? Don't even think about it. King of Gai shouted coldly. Run Rat's face sank. Since you don't want to submit, then die. This is the Great Demon Extermination Formation, specially prepared for you. As long as either Relic Buddha or I use it, you'll definitely die. Let's see how long you can last. Kaka kaka. Even if I die, I will not submit to a scoundrel like you. King of Gai roared.
Boom. Boom.
Although the bone cage was resisting, it was still unable to resist the demon-extinguishing array of the experts. The bone cage continued to wear down. Even so, there were still large amounts of shockwaves that rushed towards King Gaiyu. Once the bone cage was broken, King Gai would definitely be killed. The pride of an emperor would not allow King of Gai to submit. King of Gai struggled bitterly. At this moment, King of Gaiyu was already filled with regret. Why did he come here to challenge the number one person? It was not King of Gaiyu's thoughts, but all the experts from the various factions in the world had the same thoughts. This King of Gaiyu must have lost his mind to challenge Jing Ting. Chapter 892. Swish. Just as the demon extermination array was suppressing King Gaitu, 3 streams of light suddenly shot over from afar. Everyone looked over in confusion. Huff! On the peak of a mountain, Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi, and Bai Ditian suddenly appeared.
Who are you?
Do you want to kill King Gaida too? Just follow us and pour your energy into the demon extermination array. An expert immediately shouted at Yan Chuan and the other two. It's you, Yan Chuan? Relic Buddha's expression changed. Yan Chuan. Everyone was shocked. Obviously, everyone had heard of Yan Chuan, but only a few had seen Yan Chuan's portrait. Yan Chuan's. Ren Rat squinted his eyes. Yan Chuan ignored everyone and looked into the valley. King Gaitu, the ruler of a celestial empire, had fallen to such a state? Snake Emperor, Yan Chuan suddenly shouted. When Yan Chuan shouted, the Snake Emperor, who was sitting cross-legged in the barrier, opened his eyes slightly. There was a trace of coldness in the Snake Emperor's eyes, as well as a trace of doubt. Zombie poison. Give me the origin poison, and I will save you. Yan Chuan said. Everyone's expression changed. Origin poison? I will save you? Yan Chuan wanted to make an enemy out of everyone here? How dare you, Yan Chuan? You want to make an enemy out of all the sects? A cultivator immediately shouted. Yan Chuan, you want to make an enemy out of our celestial sects? A subordinate beside Ren Rat immediately shouted. Yan Chuan, think carefully. If you dare to help King Gaitu, you'll be making an enemy out of our 10,000 Buddha celestial grounds. Relic Buddha said coldly. Although they didn't know if Yan Chuan had the ability to do so, they didn't want to complicate things when they were about to kill King Gaitu. The Snake Emperor looked at Yan Chuan in disbelief. Cough, cough, cough.
Why?
A few months ago, he was still fighting with Yan Chuan to the death. There is no enmity between us, is there? Yan Chuan smiled. The Serpent Emperor revealed a look of bewilderment as he looked at King of Gai. Your Majesty, the Snake Emperor called out. In the eyes of the King of Gaia's skeleton, there was a glint of confusion. In the end, King of Gaia nodded at the Snake Emperor. The Snake Emperor did not ask any more superfluous questions. A beam of green light suddenly shot out of the bone cage and shot straight at Yan Chuan.
Humph.
A monk immediately pounced over, wanting to snatch the green light. Bai Ditian took a step forward. Pa! Bai Ditian had already returned.
Boom.
As for the monk that was about to fight over it, he was immediately sent crashing into the ground like a cannonball.
Wah.
The surrounding experts were in an uproar. Relic Buddha looked coldly at Yan Chuan. Ren Rat, I'll leave King of Gaia to you. I'll deal with these 3 people. Relic Buddha said in a low voice. Ren Rat narrowed his eyes and nodded. All right. Relic Buddha immediately flew over, followed by 5 bald monks. All of them looked coldly at Yan Chuan. Bai Ditian passed the item he received to Yan Chuan. It was a small blue bottle. Yan Chuan took a closer look. That's right. This is the source of the zombie poison. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Yan Chuan, I've already given you the item. Fulfill your promise. The Snake Emperor called out coldly. Of course. Yan Chuan smiled. How dare you? Relic Buddha suddenly shouted and stood in front of Yan Chuan. We haven't gone to find you, but you came here yourself. Yan Chuan, don't even think about leaving this time. Relic Buddha said coldly. Humph. Bai Ditian snorted and was about to step forward. Wait. Mou, she suddenly shouted. Mou, she suddenly took out a soybean. Looking at the soybean, everyone was puzzled. Ren Rat, who was far away, had a glint in his eyes. There was even a trace of fear in his eyes. Chapter 893. Soybeans? Seeing Mou, she take out soybeans, Relic Buddha, and the surrounding cultivators were all confused. This is? Yan Chuan asked curiously. I don't know either. Yuan Tiangang gave it to me. It's called the Soybeans Armored Soldier.
Try it.
Mou, she smiled. Mou, she could see clearly that Yan Chuan was going to make an enemy out of everyone. Make an enemy out of dozens of sections. Bai Ditian might be able to save King Gaio, but Yan Chuan would definitely become enemies with the sects. When King Gaio came back for revenge, these people would definitely shift their hatred onto Yan Chuan. That was why she took a step forward. She was going to leave. Let her carry this group of people's hatred with her. Yan Chuan quickly saw through She's plan. As for making an enemy out of the sects, Yan Chuan had already thought of the consequences. Moreover, saving King Gaio had a great purpose. Make an enemy out of dozens of sects. Great Zhen was about to become an imperial dynasty. So, what if he had to make an enemy out of the sects? However, this was She's intention. Yan Chuan did not stop her. He stepped forward, and a large number of white bones were kicked away, revealing the soil of the mountain. You are? Great Zhao Holy Ground, Tao Lord Yushi? Relic Buddha asked. She smiled and said, Relic Buddha, you have a good eye. So what if she's Tao Lord Yushi? King Gaio offended Jingming. If we kill him, Jingming will not blame us. Tao Lord Yushi, it's better that you don't interfere. If we fight and accidentally hurt you, that would be bad. Relic Buddha said coldly. Behind Relic Buddha, the 5 monks each took out a round wheel. All of them looked coldly at Yan Chuan. She ignored him and gently stuffed the soybeans into the soil. Countless cultivators in the surroundings looked confused. Planting soybeans? Tao Monarch Yushi was joking, right? Planting beans at this time? Only the 9th rat's eyes narrowed, and it became even more terrified. Squeak, squeak. It can't be right? 9th rat muttered to itself. Tao Monarch Yushi, please step aside. Otherwise you'll injure. Holding the alms bowl in his hand, Relic Buddha said coldly. However, he suddenly stopped mid-sentence. At the place where the soybeans were planted, a tender sprout suddenly emerged. The sprout grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a vine. On the vine, a soybean grew. The soybean grew bigger and bigger. Gradually, it reached the size of 1 zhang. This is? Relic Buddha was slightly taken aback. 10 feet of soybeans? Ka. All of a sudden, the 10 feet wide soybeans split open from the middle, and a pair of strange hands reached out from within.
Duh.
A strange cry came from the inside, and then the 3-meter-long soybean exploded with a loud bang. Under a large amount of smoke and dust, the soybean and the vine from before withered and shattered. In front of Yushi, a 10 feet tall yellow figure suddenly appeared. The figure was thin and had long limbs. It bowed like a praying mantis. However, it had a head that was shaped like a soybean. It was a strange-looking monster. Master, please give the order. The monster said respectfully to Yushi. Relic Buddha. Yushi. Yan Chuan. Bai Ditian. Nearly 10,000 cultivators. Did a monster really grow out of the soybeans? In the distance, the 9th rat looked even more terrified. Squeak, squeak. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? This can't be, right? The 9th rat muttered to itself. Chapter 894. Relic Buddha had a strange expression on his face. Then his eyes turned cold as he said, Tao Monarch Yushi, I don't care what this monster is. However, Yan Chuan must stay. Even if you are Tao Monarch Dazhao, it is useless. Myriad Buddha alms bowl. Relic Buddha tossed the alms bowl into the sky. Instantly, a golden light flashed and shot towards the mountain peak where Yan Chuan was.
Wang.
The surrounding space seemed to have solidified. Everyone inside was frozen. Apart from the 3 of us, beat everyone else to death. Before the golden light reached them, she quickly gave the order. Within the golden light, she seemed to be unable to move. However, the monster did not seem to be affected. It suddenly turned its head and looked at Relic Buddha with its bean-sized head. Under my space-locking Buddha light, no one can move. No one can come out. Yan Chuan, I will release your soul from purgatory. Relic Buddha laughed excitedly. Duh. The monster suddenly pounced. It was as if it was not affected at all. How can this be? Relic Buddha cried out in shock. Under the spatial lock Buddhist light, even upper void realm cultivators would be imprisoned. How could this monster not be affected at all? In the distance, Run Rat's eyes were filled with fear. Plague Dharma armor soldier? A puppet that is immune to all spells under the immortal realm? Really? Run Rat was not the only one panicking. Relic Buddha flipped his hand and sent a huge palm strike towards the monster. The surrounding 5 monks also sent out their own Buddhist seals. The palm strike was extremely powerful. It was as if a huge mountain was pressing down. Whoosh! The monster directly passed through the palm strike, as if it was just a ray of light.
Swish!
The monster instantly appeared beneath the Relic Buddha's body. Its 2 hands suddenly grabbed the Relic Buddha's legs. Relic Buddha's expression changed greatly. However, it was too late. The monster moved extremely quickly. It swung Relic Buddha like a stick towards a nearby monk. A bald monk against a bald monk.
Dang.
The stick knocked the monk deep into the ground.
Duh.
The monster shouted excitedly. Masters? Another monk cried out in shock. Pa. One of the monk's legs was also grabbed by the monster. Immediately, the monster had 2 sticks. Duh. The monster swung its 2 sticks wildly. In an instant, he charged into the crowd. Rumble. The monster's speed was extremely fast, and its strength was extremely strong. Every time it struck, one person would be sent flying, or hidden to the ground. One by one, the Shioja's heads were broken and bleeding from the collisions. Dang dang dang. A series of swords and sabers collided with the monster's body. The monster had a head of copper and arms of iron, and only the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Duh. The monster roared angrily and charged towards the Shioja, who were waving their swords at it. When the stick struck down, a practitioner put up a chi aura shield in fear. However, the stick seemed to be immune to the chi aura shield. It directly collided with the practitioner's head, as if there was no chi aura shield at all.
Clang.
Head to head, the cultivator was dizzy. As for Relic Buddha, his head was full of sarcomas and his face was bruised and swollen. For a moment, the Relic Buddha was on the verge of collapse.
How could this be?
Rumble. Head to head, the Relic Buddha couldn't use its magic power at all. It was used as a weapon and kept hitting the Shioja in all directions. The monster's speed was extremely fast, so fast that it made people collapse. The group of Shioja couldn't even escape in front of a monster. As long as they were targeted by the monster, it could appear in front of them in an instant. Upper Void Realm? So, what if it was Upper Void Realm? In the hands of the monster, wasn't it just a wooden club?
Duh. Dang.
The monster's cry echoed with the sound of head hitting head.
Ah.
Help! What was terrifying was its speed. Even some of the Shioja, who had just flown into the sky to escape, were hit back by the stick in an instant.
Rumble.
The monster was invulnerable and immune to all spells. Its speed was extremely fast, and its strength was huge. In an instant, it was like 10,000 enemies, crazily chasing after countless Shioja. Yan Chuan reached out and grabbed the myriad Buddha alms bowl. As he looked at this artifact, he also looked at the Shioja in the distance who were thrown into the air by the monster.
Duh.
The monster was wreaking havoc. Rumble. With a loud sound, the great demon extermination array was broken. Rumble. King of Gai's head was also hit. King of Gai and Snake Emperor were also looking at the monster wreaking havoc in all directions. Those two don't fight. MOU, she pointed at King of Gai and Snake Emperor. The monster immediately obeyed. It no longer targeted those two. King of Gai rubbed his head that was hit and looked at Yan Chuan. Emperor of Great Jin. We will meet again. King of Gai said. Yan Chuan nodded. King of Gai pulled Snake Emperor and shot towards the south. He didn't want to stay for even a moment longer. This journey north could be said to be the biggest failure of his life. Why did you release King of Gai? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. King of Gai conquering the southern divine continent is better than having the southern divine continent in the hands of Kong Mok and the divine sect sacred grounds. Furthermore, after this battle, King of Gai will definitely view the 1,000 Buddha sacred grounds and the divine sect sacred grounds as enemies. The enemy of my enemy might not be my friend, but I can make use of them. Help me restrain the 2 sacred grounds. Yen Chuan said with certainty. Bai Ditian nodded. While the monster was wreaking havoc, at the place where Run Rat was originally standing, a huge hole appeared on the ground. The moment the monster exploded, Run Rat quickly dug into the ground and escaped. Behind him were 30 Xiozha from the divine sect sacred grounds. Everyone dug into the rat hole and quickly escaped. Only when they were far away from the White Bone Mountain did they climb out of the ground. Hall Master, if we escape through the rat hole like this, won't we embarrass the divine sect sacred grounds? A disciple shouted. What do you know? Run Rat instantly shouted. So, what if it's a rat hole? I'm a rat. So what if I'm a rat? If you have the ability, why don't you go back? Run Rat curled his lips. This disciple doesn't dare. That disciple immediately said. Run Rat nodded and patted that disciple's shoulder. Like Grandpa Rat give you a piece of advice. Even a rat is a lifetime's worth of experience. If you want to learn a little, you can go anywhere in the world. That disciple's face lit up. He immediately said gratefully, Yes, Hall Master, please tell me. This disciple will definitely remember it. Ren Rat said meaningfully, No matter who you meet, if you want face, you will lose. If you want face, you will lose? That disciple opened his mouth in shock and stood there in a daze. No matter who you meet, if you want face, you will lose? Did I hear wrongly? That disciple was still in a daze. Rotten wood cannot be carved. Is this all you have?
Sigh.
Run Rat shook his head in disappointment. Chapter 895. On the White Bone Mountain, the armored bean soldier had shown its prowess. It was immune to all spells, and its body was impenetrable. Its speed was terrifying. It could fight against 10,000 people at once. Even Bai Ditian was at a loss. Dao Lord Yushi, what are you doing? Bai Ditian asked curiously. I don't know either. Mou she was also at a loss. When Yuan Tiangang gave it to her, Mou she did not think much of it. It was just a small toy that Yuan Tiangang made casually. But now this little toy was too exaggerated, right? It could fight against 10,000 people at once. And it had an upper void realm cultivator in its hands? Relic Buddha was also extremely unlucky. He had a body full of dermic powers, but the other party was immune to all spells. And the other party was extremely strong. Relic Buddha's heart was already dead. The huge bumps on his head were getting denser and denser. He was an upper void realm cultivator, the strongest group of people in the world. But now, the last trace of resistance was completely wiped out. A drop of tears of despair streaked across Relic Buddha's eyes.
Clang, 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 da.
Their heads were dizzy from the bumps. The more they ran, the greater the impact. In an instant, a large number of people on the White Bone Mountain fell to the ground. Their heads were bleeding as they wailed. Perhaps this armored bean soldier is an immortal artifact, Bai Ditian murmured. It's a puppet-type immortal artifact. And it's very mysterious. Yen Chuan nodded. 10 hours later, clang. The last cultivator fell. The monster grabbed the Relic Buddha and another monk who had already fainted and jumped in front of Mo Yushi. Master, my energy is about to run out. Should I kill all these people? The monster asked respectfully. You're running out of energy? Mo Yushi was confused. Yes. The monster nodded. Mo Yushi was at a loss. There's no need to kill them. Mo Yushi shook her head. Yes, masters. The monster nodded. Master, the crisis has been averted. I have gathered the last of my energy and presented it to you, the monster said. Dropping the two monks in its hands, the monster suddenly crossed its arms and knelt in front of Mo Yushi. Ka 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 ka. The monster's body quickly cracked open and then shattered into pieces. A gentle breeze blew and scattered the shattered pieces. The monster disappeared, and 7 fist-sized purple immortal stones appeared in its shattered body. Immortal stone? She picked up the immortal stone and exclaimed. This puppet used immortal stones as its foundation? One-time use? Do you still have the remaining energy of the 7 immortal stones? The White Emperor asked emotionally. She nodded. Soybeans? How much energy was stored in this soybean? Yuan Tiangangs? Yan Chuan frowned slightly and was a little curious. Meanwhile, the Saraira Buddha that was thrown at Yan Chuan's feet by the monster struggled to get up. Yan Chuan immediately noticed and smashed the myriad Buddha alms bowl in his hand.
Clang.
The Saraira Buddha suddenly fainted. Before it fainted, it was filled with despair and regret. He was an upper void realm cultivator, but he actually died here? It was too embarrassing. The soybeans shattered, leaving behind a ground full of injured people. Most of them had fainted, and a small number of them were wailing in pain. What should we do with these people? Bai Ditian looked at the crippled people in front of him and asked curiously. Yan Chuan looked and took a deep breath. Capture them all and send them to Fra-City. Dezhun's East factory guards are there. Let them send these people to Dezhun's prison. Chapter 896. Imprison them all? Bai Ditian was slightly stunned. Yes. Yan Chuan nodded. Rumble. Countless vines suddenly emerged from the ground, wrapping around the injured and sending them to Yan Chuan. Seal their cultivation. Yan Chuan said to Bai Ditian. All right. Bai Ditian nodded. It was too easy for Bai Ditian to seal one's cultivation. Furthermore, when Bai Ditian took action, no one could break through a seal. Not even the relic Buddha could break through it. While Bai Ditian was sealing, she handed the immortal stone to Yan Chuan. Give this to Miao as a snack. It's useless for me to keep it. Yan Chuan smiled and nodded. Whether it was Zizi or Yushi, they doted on Miao too much. Not long after, the three of them swept up nearly 10,000 cultivators and left Whitebone Mountain. One day later, Whitebone Mountain.
Whoosh.
A strong wind blew past, and nearly 100 cultivators suddenly appeared in the sky above Whitebone Mountain. All of them were riding dragon-headed horses. All of them were wearing golden robes and had powerful auras. The Dragon Horse King in the lead was twice the size of the other dragon horses. Its entire body was greenish-black, and it emitted a black aura. As it stepped on the ground, tens of thousands of horses submitted. Riding on the Dragon Horse King was a man in a golden dragon robe. The man had a square face and a cinnabar between his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with arrogance. A long saber hung from his waist, looking extremely domineering. The man in the lead looked around coldly. Where are they? The man in the lead asked in a low voice. Immediately, one of the 100 people dismounted and knelt down. Reporting to Emperor Mo Ku, they are here. The relic Buddha asked me to quickly report to you. That person said respectfully. Emperor Mo Ku narrowed his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Another person dismounted and stepped forward. Emperor Mo Ku, there are many traces of battle here. The relic Buddha might have encountered something else. Let's wait a little longer. He should be back soon. Emperor Mo Ku's eyes turned cold. Relic Buddha? He can't do anything right. What right does he have to make me wait?
Yes.
I know my mistake. The first person immediately apologized. I will continue to head north. You guys stay here and wait for Relic Buddha. Tell him to hurry up and come see me. Emperor Mo Ku said in a deep voice. Yes. The person from before replied respectfully. Go. Heavenly Son Mo Ku stomped his foot and the Dragon Horse King let out a long neigh and quickly stepped into the air towards the north. The group of experts quickly followed, leaving only 2 people to wait quietly in the White Bone Mountain. A few days later, in a large hall outside the White Bone Mountain, Run Rat was listening to a disciple's report.
Gone?
All gone? No news from the other sects. None of the 10,000 people managed to escape? Run Rat's eyes shone brightly. That's right, Palace Master. Should he inform the various sects? This matter definitely has something to do with Mou Shi and Yen Chuan. A disciple immediately said, Pass a message? Pass on my ass, idiot. What does it have to do with us if they're gone? Run Rat cursed. The disciple was speechless. 5 months passed by quickly, and the 9th day of September arrived in the blink of an eye. Dark Phoenix Hall. Yen Chuan had been accompanying Mou Shi all this time. Perhaps this was the last time in this world. Yen Chuan held Mou Shi's hand and walked to the railing of the hall's plaza. Hades Emperor, Dao Lord you just returned. Qinglong said. Oh. Mou Shi's expression changed. Dao Lord Yu's face was full of anger, and only one person returns. Qinglong said. One person? Yen Chuan and Mou Shi looked at each other. Dao Lord Yu's trip to the Jilu Academy didn't go well. Mou Shi smiled. I'll get Bai Ditian to help. Bai Ditian might be back soon. We'll just have to ask him then. Yen Chuan laughed. Meng Wenrua and Su Sanyang were finally together. As the two sighed, Bai Ditian turned into a stream of light and shot into the plaza. Bai Ditian? How was the trip to the Jilu Academy? Yen Chuan asked. Meng Wenrua succeeded. Bai Ditian smiled. Oh. Dao Lord you went to fetch Su Sanyang. Unfortunately, Su Sanyang refused to go with him in the name of mourning. Bai Ditian said. And then, although nothing happened between Meng Wenrua and Su Sanyang, Dao Lord Yu still found something strange and went to question Su Sanyang. She refused to say anything and refused to go with Dao Lord Yu. Dao Lord Yu was furious and said something that hurt Su Sanyang deeply. Everything was resolved. Bai Ditian smiled. What did he say? Dao Lord Yu said, if I can't have you, no one else can. After saying that, Dao Lord Yu attacked Su Sanyang, and Meng Wenrua went to save her. The two of them died together, and their affair broke out. You didn't see it, but it was a tear-jerking scene. At the critical moment, Jin Dayu and I took action and blocked Dao Lord Yu. Everything was settled. Bai Ditian said. Yen Chuan and Mou Shi looked at each other. That's for the best. My last bit of guilt is gone. Dao Lord Yu said something like that, which means that he didn't love Su Sanyang at all. It was just a kind of possessiveness. Mou Shi took a deep breath and sighed. Yen Chuan nodded. Bai Ditian, you just came back. You should rest first. Tomorrow, Jingting will take Goddess Xi Chen's Dao seal. After tomorrow, we will have too many things to do. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Okay. Bai Ditian nodded. Bai Ditian went to rest. Mou Shi hugged Yen Chuan and said coquettishly, I want to see the fireworks. After tomorrow, Mou Shi might leave. Yen Chuan naturally cherished this last night. Okay, I've already sent people to prepare it. Let's go. Yen Chuan nodded gently. In a valley in the Dazhao sacred ground, fireworks shot into the sky. Yen Chuan hugged Mou Shi and looked at the beautiful scenery. Mou Shi leaned in Yen Chuan's arms and looked at the fireworks. Then, she looked at Yen Chuan affectionately. Finally, her eyes unconsciously looked at her lower abdomen. One hand was placed on her lower abdomen and gently stroked it. It was extremely gentle. Mou Shi's eyes flashed with a kind light. She smiled blissfully. How are the fireworks? Yen Chuan asked gently. Mou Shi immediately looked away and looked at the fireworks in front of her. Her eyes flashed with happiness. Yes, it's so beautiful, Mou Shi praised. Then, she leaned into Yen Chuan's arms. The fireworks shot into the sky. Although the scenery was beautiful, they were sending Mou Shi off. Yan Chuan didn't feel good. Looking at the fireworks, Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said, Yushi, don't worry. I will come and find you. Furthermore, the next time I see you, even if Jingting doesn't allow it, I will take you away. Believe me, I will definitely support you. MOU, she smiled blissfully. I believe you. Chapter 897. September 9th. Dajiao's Sacred Ground. Although Jingming did not announce it to the world, the heroes of the world had already felt that Dajiao was unusual. Even Dajiao's series of actions were unusual. September 9th, outside the Dark Phoenix Hall. Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi, Bai Ditian, and the Emperor, who had just arrived, stood quietly on an extremely spacious balcony. They stared at the Wu clan's grand hall on Great Bright Mountain. Yan Chuan held Mo Yushi's hand with a heavy heart. Emperor, did you know from the great wisdom bodhisattva that you obtained the inheritance of the Blade Demon? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. It was the Ice Phoenix Sovereign. My father's inheritance was given to me by Aunt Ming. The Ice Phoenix clan submitted to Aunt Ming. They should know something. Now, they are colluding with the Thousand Buddha's sacred ground. After this battle, I will slaughter the Ice Phoenix clan. The Emperor said coldly. Slaughter the Ice Phoenix. MOU, she frowned slightly. The Emperor looked at MOU she and said, Phoenix is divided into many branches. The relationship between the Ice Phoenix and your Dark Phoenix is not good even in the immortal world. Back then, the Ice Phoenix only submitted to Dark Phoenix. MOU she nodded. They stopped arguing. Emperor, are you sure Jingming knows about your father's death? Yan Chuan looked at the Emperor and asked. The Emperor nodded and gritted his teeth. My father's death is irreconcilable. I must kill the enemy with my own hands. Wasn't the Blade Demon the strongest person in the world back then? At that time, who would be able to kill him? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. I don't know. The Undying Sacred Ground was like the Dajiao's sacred ground now. In the world, their words carried weight, and all sects submitted to them. I can't think of anything. The Emperor shook his head bitterly. Yan Chuan nodded and did not ask any more questions. The Emperor clenched his fists. Today, he must know the result. Great Zhou City. On a floating island. Yao Tianshang was dressed in a green robe. Together with Spider King and 20 subordinates, he stood at the peak of the floating island. He looked at the Wu clan's great bright mountain from afar, and his eyes became more and more serious. Yao Tianshang gently waved his hand, and Spider King and the others stepped back. Yao Tianshang muttered to himself, Jingting wants to take Goddess Jichen's seal? Yao Tianshang's glabella flickered slightly before he spoke again. Not bad. The #1 expert of this generation is indeed extraordinarily courageous. However, don't worry. Our future might not be weaker than his. Yao Tianshang was talking to himself. His voice was very soft, and only he could hear it. I've thought of many ways, but the demon race is unable to condense fate. This is determined by our fate. The demon nation that I established, although there are many demon race members, if we can't condense fate, what's the use of my demon nation? Yao Tianshang said with a complicated expression. Demons can't establish a country? When I was still alive, I had always been looking for an answer. Do you know why I died all those years ago? Yao Tianshang asked again.
Oh.
I sacrificed myself for a cause. Before I died, I found the answer. Moreover, I must have succeeded. Believing in me is the same as believing in yourself. The human race is only one of the 10,000 races, while the demon race comprises half of them. Once the demon nation is established, it will be unstoppable, Yao Tianshang said confidently. All right, you are my previous life. Of course, I will believe you. Just don't think about devouring my memories from this life. Yao Tianshang nodded. Don't worry. I won't. The current state that we are in now is something that I have planned for a long time. Not only will I not devour your memories from this life, but when the time is right, I will also transfer all the memories from my previous life to you. Chapter 898. Yes. Yao Tianshang nodded. Then, Yao Tianshang stopped talking and continued to look in the direction of the Wu clan's main hall. In a valley at the edge of the great Zhou city. In the valley, there were 100 people riding on dragon horses. All of them were extremely arrogant, and their eyes shone brightly. The one riding the dragon horse king was the Western Emperor Mo. Son of Heaven Mo narrowed his eyes and stared at the Wu clan's main hall in Great Bright Mountain. Reporting to Emperor Mo, there is still no news of the relic Buddha. A person beside him said respectfully. Emperor Mo's eyes turned cold as he turned his head to look. Under Emperor Mo's gaze, that person lowered his head in fear. Heavenly Son, Mo pondered for a moment. Relic Buddha? Trash. From the looks of it, King Guai has already returned to the southern divine continent? The great calamity Sky Dynasty's destiny cloud sea did not collapse. I think King Guai must have escaped back, the subordinate said respectfully. Heaven's Son Mo took a deep breath and said, this emperor has been planning for many years. Once the capital retreats, this emperor will sweep through the world. There are many calamities in the south. It looks like it won't be that easy to take down the south in a short time. King Gaiyu was severely injured by Jingming this time. This should have been a heaven-sent opportunity. It's a pity that Sarira Buddha failed in his task. He deserves to die. That subordinate immediately added. Tianzi Mo nodded. Your Majesty, our men have discovered Yao Tianshang and 20 other great demons in the great Zhou city. Another subordinate reported respectfully. Emperor Mo's eyes turned cold. Yao Tianshang? This person was quite daring. He had schemed in the northern divine continent for many years and gathered a large number of demons. Unfortunately, the demons were unable to establish their own country. Demon country? What a joke. Your Majesty, after today will we? The subordinate asked doubtfully. Yao Tianshang? Once Jingting retreats, we'll capture Yao Tianshang. He's also a talent. It's fine if he submits to me, but if he doesn't, kill him. Emperor Mo said solemnly. Yes. Your Majesty, Dark Phoenix Hall has discovered traces of Yan Chuan. He was the one who ruined Your Majesty's plans in the East Divine Continent. Another subordinate reported. Yan Chuan? Kong Susu's bastard child? Kong Susu was my strongest competitor back then. Almost, the emperor you speak of was Kong Susu. Emperor Mo sneered. We pledge our loyalty to His Majesty. Everyone quickly declared. It doesn't matter. Everything has been settled. Yan Chuan? Back then, Kong Susu used her life to protect him. Who would have thought that she would leave behind such a scourge? Mo mumbled. The subordinates didn't say anything else. This involved the internal affairs of the Kong family, so no one had the right to interfere. Heavenly Son Mo once again stared at the Wu clan's main hall in the distance. Outside the Wu clan's main hall, nearly 10 million cultivators had gathered and were waiting respectfully for the doors of the grand hall to open. At the entrance of the main hall, Shangguan Waner, Mohina Dojin, Dao Lord Yu, and the leaders of the 5 vassal sects were waiting respectfully. The square of the Wu clan's main hall was extremely solemn and serene. Shangguan Waner stood on the square and looked around. There was a cold glint in her eyes. Senior brother, did Shangguan Waner discover us? Grandmaster, is Shangguan Waner's eyes warning us? Shangguan Waner's gaze swept across the area. Great Zhou City, the surrounding mountains, and many other places were in an uproar. This uproar included where Yao Tianshang and Emperor Mo were. Shangguan Waner's eyes instantly warned all the Upper Void Realm experts. Chapter 899. No matter how well you hid, Shangguan Wan would still find you instantly. Shangguan Wan has never shown herself before. So she is this powerful? King Spider said to Yao Tianshang in surprise. Yao Tianshang did not answer. Instead, he frowned slightly. Roar. Emperor Emoka's dragon horse neighed. Everyone felt the threat in Shangguan Wan's gaze. Shut up. Emperor Emoka pressed down on King Dragon Horse. Your Majesty, is Shangguan Wan warning everyone not to cause trouble at this time? A subordinate asked solemnly. Emperor Emoka's face turned gloomy. He did not answer. Shangguan Wan looked around. She had achieved her goal. She turned to look at the Wu clan's main hall. Sacred Master, everything is ready. Yuan Tiangang has already gone to the great suppressing world steel. Shangguan Wan said respectfully. Bang. The doors of the main hall suddenly opened. Everyone looked over and saw beams of golden light shooting out from the main hall. Jing Ming walked out step by step under the golden light. Greetings, Sacred Master. Nearly 10 million cultivators bowed respectfully to Jing Ming, who was wearing a dragon robe. Jing Ming walked out in a dragon robe and a flat imperial crown. With a wave of his wide sleeves, Jing Ming's eyes exuded a solemn and noble aura. Step by step, Jing Ming walked to the square. He waved his sleeves and looked around. Greetings, Sacred Master. Sacred Master, you will enjoy immortal blessings and live as long as the heavens. The cultivators said respectfully again. Standing in front of the Wu clan's main hall, Jing Ming looked around. An emperor's aura spread out. Countless cultivators were subdued by this emperor's aura. Rise. Jing Ming said calmly. Thank you, Sacred Master. The nearly 10 million cultivators said respectfully. The surroundings were solemn. At this moment, the cultivators within 1,000,000 miles of the Great Bright Mountain did not dare to breathe. For a moment, the Great Bright Mountain was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. However, an accident still happened. Jing Ming. Suddenly, an abrupt voice sounded. Shangguan Wan's expression changed. The nearly 10 million cultivators in the Great Bright Sacred Ground also turned gloomy. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. It came from outside the Dark Phoenix Hall on Dark Phoenix Mountain. A trace of anxiety appeared on Shangguan Wan's face. She had previously threatened all the practitioners. The only place that wasn't a threat was Dark Phoenix Mountain. That was Moushi's dojo. There shouldn't be any problems there. How could something happen at this time? The one who directly called out Jingming's name was the Emperor. At this moment, the Emperor's face was solemn. He didn't have the slightest bit of respect as he stared at Jingming. How dare you? Maori, Yu, and the other experts immediately shouted in anger. Jingming looked over, but his expression changed slightly. He gently waved his hand and stopped all the actions of the Great Revelation Holy Lands experts. Emperor? The Emperor didn't back down at all and looked at Jingming coldly. Jingming also asked with interest, Is it you, lass? Girl? A trace of displeasure appeared on the Emperor's face. But she still asked, Jingming, how did my father die? How did this woman's father die? Countless cultivators in the surroundings were already at a loss. Was she here to mess things up? The death of the Blade Demon? You don't know? Jingming smiled. Then, Jingming looked at Yan Chuan with deep meaning. Yan Chuan frowned slightly. Suddenly, he thought of something and his expression changed slightly. I don't know. Please tell me. The Emperor lowered his head solemnly, with difficulty. For the revenge of his father, the Emperor was willing to do anything. You should know, the Blade Demon should have already told you, Jingming said indifferently. Tell me? The Emperor's expression changed. The Emperor frowned deeply. His expression suddenly became ugly, but he still gritted his teeth and shook his head. No, I don't know, please tell me. The Emperor took a deep breath and suppressed his emotions at this moment. Jingming sighed slightly and said, The person who killed your father, Yan Zizai. Yan Zizai? Yan Chuan's ancestor. Sword Demon and Blade Demon were known as the Twin Demons. They were both the founders of the Immortal Holy Land. Impossible, impossible. Sword demon killed my father? This is impossible. The emperor immediately exclaimed. Jingming looked at the emperor and said indifferently, Did the blade demon really not warn you? The emperor immediately took a step back and looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. The blade demon set up a forbidden technique that allowed the emperor to feel Yan Zizai's bloodline. Did he want the emperor to avenge him? Kill all the descendants of the Yan clan? Did he also want the emperor to kill Yan Chuan? Chapter 900. Atlas Studios. The emperor could feel the Yan clan's bloodline. This was also the reason why Yan Chuan had found the emperor for the first time. At first, no one thought much of it. However, at this moment, this connection caused Huang Ke to be shocked. Yan Zizai killed his father? If that was the case, his father had used a secret technique to connect him to the Yan clan's bloodline. Didn't this mean that his father hated the Yan clan's bloodline to the core? His father wanted him to exterminate the Yan clan's bloodline? Avenge him? For a moment, the emperor seemed to be unable to breathe as he stared at Jingming. Yan Zizai? Is it really Yan Zizai? The emperor's eyes turned red. Jingming looked at the emperor and said indifferently, I don't need to lie to you. Girl, although you targeted me in the past, I don't blame you. If you have any problems in the future, you can come to me anytime. Jingming was lying? There was no need. With Jingming's current status and strength, she didn't need to lie. Was it really Yan Zizai? Was he really going to kill Yan Chuan? He couldn't live under the same sky as his father. Xing. The emperor waved his long saber and pointed it at Yan Chuan. Bai Ditian's face darkened as he stepped forward. She also nervously stood in front of Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan pulled She away. Bai Ditian, move aside. Yan Chuan said. Bai Ditian frowned and nodded. He moved aside for Yan Chuan. The emperor's long saber was pointed at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan looked at the emperor solemnly. Countless cultivators stared at them. Even Jingming was watching with interest at this moment. Jingming already knew that Yan Chuan had super skills. Yan Zizai's descendant. The emperor? The daughter of the saber demon. Were these two going to fight to the death? The emperor looked at Yan Chuan. His eyes were red, but his expression was one of extreme pain.
Why?
Why is it you? The emperor's voice was filled with pain. The breeze blew through the emperor's short hair, but the emperor's face was ferocious. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan shook his head and said, I did not kill your father. It was not Yan Chuan who killed him. Yan Chuan had never done anything. This was an indisputable fact. However, Yan Chuan was the descendant of Yan Zizai. Staring at Yan Chuan, a trace of hostility flashed in the emperor's eyes. But as soon as this hostility appeared, it was instantly extinguished by some unknown emotion. However, the evil qi that had just been annihilated appeared again, forming a gust of evil wind that blew past Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan's clothes fluttered, but Yan Chuan did not move at all. Father, how did I get here? You are the result of the love between me and your mother. Dad, your beard is hurting me. Dad will shave it off immediately. Little baby. Dad, I am 3 years old. Last year I was a little baby, now I am a big baby. Good, a big baby.
Ha.
Then Dad, what did you say just now? What is love? Love is love. Just like how I love your mother. Your mother loves me. Why does mother love you? There is no why. It is love. But I don't understand. You will understand in the future. No, I want to know now. Well, to love someone, you are willing to lose everything for him. I don't understand. Ha. The emperor's eyes unconsciously moistened. Pointing his long sword at Yan Chuan, the emperor's whole body trembled. The hatred of killing my father is absolutely irreconcilable. I will kill you. I will destroy the Yan clan, the emperor said coldly to Yan Chuan.
Ah.
The emperor raised his head and screamed. Rumble. In an instant, thousands of sword qi appeared around the emperor. The The sword she pierced through the 9 heavens, bringing with it a biting cold. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.